Last time on Who Knows God Part 2.
When your marks get set, Stephanie lowered her hand at once. Go! Gwen shot away, using one of her arms to push her overbearing father behind. Jason and Hollis kicked out from the starting positions like trained pros. Hollis took the clear lead from the onset, using her long, powerful stride to leave her sister and father to wrestle for the runner-up spot. Gwen began to separate herself from her father around 10 meters from the tree stump that signified the finish line. Tekk reached out and grabbed her by the shirt. "Ah, you're such a cheater," she yelled. "Get your little butt over here," Tekk said as he lifted and flung her over his shoulder. Gwen became tickled with laughter, so much that she could hardly speak. "No, I beat you, Daddy."
Last time on Who Knows God Part 2.
"I'm going to need to collar him myself. I have one of you call a station with a fake anonymous tip and leave it on my answer machine. I'll make a nice, quiet arrest, and we'll split the bank." Deflated with it all, Stephanie just sought to escape through the television she just turned on. "Just don't hurt him when you take him in," she demanded. "Fuck you mean don't hurt him?" Derek asked enviously. "Derek, I'm not playing. Don't hurt him." She stood her ground, feeling no need to explain herself. "Now, Judas," she looked at Margot. "Pilot," she said to Derek, "can the two of you get going?"
Last time on Who Knows God Part 2.
"Hey," he asked, looking at Stephanie straight in the eyes. "What if we didn't go back to America?" "What?" The THC in her system had struck some instant, in-depth, clear glance into the future of his proposal, and the thought just as quickly settled nicely in her heart. She wasn't happy at work, lonely, and in search of another way. "That's a yes?" Ole said, as if he correctly read her speechless face. "That's a yes." "No," she said. "That's a maybe." "Maybe," she submitted. Shakur Margot Ali, 800 miles. You're going to help me put the braces on Tekk no matter how you feel about it. Detective Derek Brown. August 30th, 2011. Margot emptied the pot of hominy grits that he boiled onto the plate and brought it over to his desk, which was only a few feet away. His apartment was almost laughably small. The ground floor apartment of a two-family house in the northeast Bronx, with a single bathroom and access to the garden in the back via a door that led directly into the kitchen. After blessing his food, he prepared to dive in. Just as he raised his loaded fork to his mouth, a series of light taps on the window to his left summoned his attention. Nothing short of a combat-ready soldier, Tekk was decked out in army fatigues, construction Timbs, and a green turban topping his head like some sort of halo. "Peace, brother," Margot greeted, opening the door. "Peace, peace," Tekk returned as he stepped inside, toting a Nike duffel bag and an aura of unbreakable strength. His shoulders seemed to take on an agenda of his own, his chest broad and upright. Margot suddenly felt the need to put a shirt on. "You still don't trust the front door, huh?" he asked as he headed to the bedroom. "That's when they catch you, when you start trusting shit," Tekk said, with the likeness of a parable. "I'ma use your computer, all right?" he advised Margot. "Yeah, no problem," he said as he scampered through a pile of clothes to find something to put on. "So how was Philly, brother?" "Mashallah, mashallah." Margot looked at the wall as if he could see Tekk through it. This brother really going to answer my question like that? He thought before tossing on the dashiki, the cleanest garment he had available. Margot noticed at some undisclosed point during their abstract past that Tekk had stopped talking to him on any meaningful level. It was as if he judged Margot to be incapable of handling certain information, and that was that. Margot first noticed the disconnect while they were on a promo tour a few years ago. Tekk seemed only to take interest in conversing with fellow rappers and dealers. He listened to Margot and kept things cordial but not at the deep level that Tekk often did things at. I see you and Steph stay connected, Tekk yelled. Margot's heart all but stopped. He had no idea how to respond. The tone in Tekk's voice was so flat that Margot couldn't read anything into it. He grabbed the large envelope that read California sales on the front and left the bedroom. Tekk was holding one of Stephanie's photos in his hand, sitting in front of the computer. "Oh yeah," Margot said, very much relieved. "They're actually selling now. I did a website for her." "Nice," Tekk said plainly. Margot handed him the envelope. "Here's the rest of the money from the Cali trip." "Thank you, sir," Tekk accepted. Margot pulled out one of the chairs from the kitchen table and took a seat beside Tekk. "What's up with the music?" he asked. "Alhamdulillah," Tekk said, even more plain. "What does that mean, Tekk?" Margot asked, almost irritated as he lit a Newport. Tekk presented his non-confrontational, almost political smile, looking in and out of Margot's eyes. "Everything is all right, brother. I'm here," is what he offered as an elaboration. In his head, Margot figured Tekk would be a lot nicer if he knew how much of his freedom laid in his hands. He tapped the excess ash off the tip of his cigarette. "I remember when I first met you. I didn't really know what to think of you. You seem to be like the typical grinding, trying to get by type brother. But when I heard you speak, I knew there was something different about you." "When's the first time we spoke?" Tekk probed while reading the email. Margot exhaled the smoke in his mouth. "Remember, you was out there selling your album on 3rd Avenue. In harmony, they both bust out laughing. "Word," Tekk said. "That's when I was on my out of the trunk grind. Yeah, the album was good, brother. I still have it, actually. That same copy," Margot said to his modestly grinning friend. "The way you could see things and put them into language and make them all rhyme, even back then, it was clear that you had a mastery of your craft. Remember when you came in to work with me that winter?" "Yup," Tekk said. "We spent half of the time playing chess and talking about Allah." He smiled from inside. "That was the good old days. Khan was working here too. May he rest in peace." "Yup," Margot said, looking down in a somber reminisce. "Yvette used to cook us those cheese home fries," he added, finally taking his attention from the computer monitor. "Damn, bro, you don't speak to her at all no more?" "Nah, brother. It's been years since I spoke to Yvette. Last I heard, she was back in Tennessee with her family." Margot caught a glance at Tekk, zoning out in thought. "Speaking on ex-wives, when was the last time you spoke to LaRonda?" "It's been over a year. That bitch got a new circle of friends now," Tekk said. Margot hemmed. "How you feel about that?" "What, you working with the police now, bro?" Again, Margot's heart gave him trouble to Tekk's striking choice of question. "Shit, it is what it is," Tekk continued. "Everything has an expiration date, brother. I made that bitch say la illallah illallah. I did my job." Margot said the first thing that came to his mind. "Somebody was telling me Stump did a beat on her album." "Yeah, he did," Tekk said. He looked around and stood up as if he was about to leave. "All right, I'm about to make moves," he confirmed. "Would you like something to eat before you leave, brother?" Margot asked. "Nah, I'm good, bro." Margot stood up as well. He nodded his head as Tekk removed an orange from the fruit basket on the table and held it up as if asking for permission to take it. "Have you thought about what we talked about the last time?" "What, that Africa shit?" Tekk asked. "Yes, brother. And you ain't got to refer to it as shit. You can live like a king out there, brother. You can have a maid, cook, whatever the hell you want for a fraction of what you would pay here." "I feel you. It looks good. I'm definitely going to see what's up," Tekk said before tapping Margot's fist with respect and disappearing back into the obscurity of NYC. 1 hour later. After a few swallows of Merlot and a moment or two of raw reflection, Margot started digging into his file cabinet to see what work needed to be done. He proofread the advertisement that he was going to post on the internet for Stephanie's set of London pictures tomorrow. He would package 2 for $1,000, fly it up the flagpole, and see if anyone saluted. He wrote himself a note to call Kofi, his live-in assistant at his estate in the mountains of Ghana, West Africa. He needed to let Kofi feel his presence, even if it was by way of phone. Kofi had been leaving the property unattended for days, even weeks at a time, to go hang out with his friends in the city. The house had already been robbed once, and Margot wasn't working as hard as he was working to be losing shit. Margot was cutting a piece of the chocolate cake that his daughter made for him when his cell phone rang. He checked the caller ID and gave thought before answering. "What's up, bro?" "What's up, man?" "First Stephanie's not answering the phone, now you? What's going on?" "Listen, bro, I don't know about this, man," Margot said. "You don't know about what?" "Turning in Tekk. I've known this brother for... Motherfucker, you ain't got no choice," Detective Brown fired. Although taken completely off guard, Margot remained cool. "Oh, really?" he asked. "I'll stick your fat ass in the bag and charge it to the game, Margot. You hear me?" If Margot's heart was the sort to pump Kool-Aid, he would have been all sweet inside right now. But he kept it calm. "Brother, listen. I don't know who you think you are, but I don't respond well to threats, okay? Motherfucker, you're gonna help me put the bracelets on Tekk no matter how you feel about it. Or else, I'm gonna find a reason to put handcuffs on you. Now, where is Tekk likely to be right now, at this very moment?" Derek asked. "I have no idea. I don't know." "Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to give you to tomorrow to put a list together of the last 5 places you saw him and the last 5 places you saw his daughters. Otherwise, I start putting a case together on your money laundering activity for NYCMC Records. The choice is yours. You have to tomorrow." 9:26 a.m. the next day. Margot sat perfectly still within himself, careful not to frighten God's creatures away. He let only his eyes move, noticing that a squirrel had made his way over. All the animals ate in peace under the crisp, serene light of the sun. Margot's studies were disturbed by his cell phone ringing. As he raised his large body, the birds and squirrels all quickly scattered about. He hobbled his way through the kitchen into the living room. "Yes, hello?" he answered as he slowly took to his love seat. "Hey, Fatima, you still coming over?" He looked over his glasses. "Oh," he said. "I didn't hear it ring. You outside right now?" He popped up and opened the front door. "Hey, baby," Margot said. Fatima leaned in and kissed him on the cheek. "Hi, Daddy." Fatima had already made his day. He smiled as he shut the front door and followed her inside. She wore a beautiful spring dress of a natural tone. She had on cheap shoes and carried a simple brown pocketbook. A simple girl. "What were you doing?" Fatima asked her aging father. Just chilling," Margot responded, while straightening some miscellaneous items on the counter. She took a look at the backyard through the kitchen window. "You were feeding those birds, weren't you?" she asked, as her eyes caught a hold of the aluminum tray of table scraps that a few robins were eating from. "Oh, nah, I was checking them out, but Daddy, you sure you don't want to reconsider that position at Watley? I think you would be a perfect candidate for the job. Those students could use a strong, positive black man at the head of the classroom." "Yeah, but they ain't gonna let me be a strong, positive black man in their system." "You already know that, Fatima." The tone Margot assumed suggested he had already verified his standpoint. Margot's phone rang again. He looked long and hard at the number on the display screen before answering. "Senator, hello?" Fatima took a seat in front of the computer, and Margot flopped back into the love seat. "Yes, the 14th?" he asked, biting the tip of the frame of his glasses, as he often did when he was trying to process information. He checked to see what level Fatima was listening to his conversation through the corner of his eye. "No problem." "And you'll text me that?" "Good. Yeah, no problem." Going at 3 o'clock. Cool, he concluded. Fatima looked at him. You're doing work with the senator? Yeah, some light campaign stuff. You know, Margot said. Daddy, I swear you get more and more weird by the day, Fatima said in a joking manner, but all the more truthful. Not wanting to address her concern, Margot moved the conversation along. You spoke to your mother lately? Yeah, she's doing good. Good, good. The sound of the morning news can be heard from the compact television in the bedroom. The birds could be heard singing from the back. Daddy, I need to be out of my apartment by the end of the month, Fatima reminded him. If this place wasn't so small, I'd invite you to stay here. Well, I prefer small than homeless, Daddy. Let me see what I can come up with, sweetie. 3:27 p.m., the same day. Margot got to the mosque just before the brothers and sisters were preparing for their midday prayer. He swiftly took to the bathroom, washed himself off, and made his way to the top floor where the main prayer area was. He slipped out of his flip-flops and placed his still damp feet on a vastly elaborate carpet. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Margot lined his broad shoulders and big feet with the Turkish brother to his left and the Ugandan brother to his right. Ashhadu Allah illallah illallah. Margot found some way to just let himself go. It wasn't personal, it was business. He did know that God was keeping score, watching the way he was moving, and he understood that if God was watching this, then he knew that God knew that he was over 70 grand in debt. God had to know that at this point in his life, that all he wanted to be was healthy and move out of the States to his estate in Western Africa, where he could start over again. Margot had the knowledge. He just needed God to give him another shot. 26 minutes later. Okay, today we're going to talk about the legitimacy for having more than one wife. Some brothers have the understanding that they can marry up to 4, which is in the Quran. However, Sheikh Abdullah said, there are some stipulations that come along with this. For instance, the man must be able to support each woman at her standard of living prior to the marriage. So let's say you and your existing wife decide that the time has come to take another partner for the enhancement of the household, and you go out and get a woman who is making $100,000 a year driving a BMW, then you have to maintain her at that level even in the marriage. But then it gets tricky because your first wife is driving a Corolla. He shrugged his shoulders as he peeped at the brothers who, in the imagination of their own minds, concluded the point as they saw fit. Margot readjusted his legs, terribly uncomfortable. He was hot, just about sapped out of attention and ready to go. There wasn't any permanent information to take note of. He was going to wait for an opportunity to creep off slowly, as if going to the bathroom. He reminded himself to grab a pamphlet from the front desk so he wouldn't have any trouble getting paid for today. 12 minutes later. If you want to know if your prayer is being accepted, check your behavior. If your prayer is being accepted, then your behavior will reflect that, and you will be guarded from wickedness and indecency. The Sheikh raised a powerful finger to further emphasize wickedness and indecency. He pulled the Raytheon fabric of his jalaliya back down his legs, still looking to lock eyes with the most attentive listeners. You understand me, brothers? Islam is not a religion. It's the natural way of life. There's no beginning and no ending. The group was interrupted by a brother who busted in during the climax of the lesson. Hello, brother, Sheikh Abdullah addressed him. Are you Muslim? He asked the young man who didn't bother saying anything to anyone. Yes, he confirmed. Well, how will we know? Oh, I'm sorry. Assalamu alaikum. He gave the appropriate greeting. Margot picked himself up and slowly and discreetly let himself out. He collected his black Docker shoes from the cubby that he'd placed them in before hitting the streets.
He strolled down Harlem's 3rd Avenue, McDonald's bound, carrying a black leather briefcase. He checked out the boys doing pull-ups on a scaffold in Washington Projects. His head shot back and forth, checking out the asses in the leggings wandering past him. He sucked it all up, enjoying it, but hoping that these were the last of his days in good old Harlem. 8:08 p.m., the same night. The same sheik did the same lecture for about an hour. The subject matter consisted of polygamy, having more than one wife. Did he say anything about them getting more wives in the afterlife if they take certain violent measures in this life? No, nothing to that effect, Margot said. Okay, what else? There was no other permanent information from the polygamy thing. He also talked about the importance of the midday prayer. What did he say about that? Nothing of any importance. So once again, you have nothing for us, the senator said. What do you want, me to make something up? Margot pushed back for a change. Before the senator can consider, he added, I only got half of the money wired to my account that I was supposed to. Oh, yeah? The senator asked as he concluded his notes. We'll look into that, he said unconvincingly. Yes, please do. And is there anything you could do for my daughter? She's going to get evicted next month. I don't know about that, Margot. Listen, this is my daughter I'm talking about. She's about to get kicked out of her place, man. You already owe me close to $3,000. Margot, we need more information than we've been getting from you. As of right now, LaRonda's completely out of pocket. You keep telling us that you haven't seen Tekk. And how about Immortal Technique? Technique left the country, Margot all but yelled. Listen, I'm giving you all I can give you. Well, we're giving you all we can give you. 1:31 a.m., the same night. Margot checked around good and thoroughly before opening the front door. He was as cautious as he could be. The blinds were drawn tightly on the bedroom and kitchen windows. The radio was playing just at the right level to drown out small talk. He even shut off the power on his cell phone once the booty call he'd been waiting on came in. You care for some wine, brother? Margot asked the young man who took a seat on a fold-out chair by the bathroom. Nah, I'm good, the dark-skinned, well-toned 19-year-old said with a certain rigor to him. You got the money? He asked. Margot handed him a $50 bill, loosened his belt, and slipped his pants below his waist. The young man smiled with a hint of seduction and strength as he walked over and bent to his knees. He turned the snapback cap around to clear the brim and suck Margot's dick like his livelihood depended on it. 12 minutes later. Okay, so now that I know I can trust you, I can send you to make some real money, Margot said as he tossed his wet wipe in the garbage and left the bedroom. Now this is a very important client, so be very, very discreet, brother. Dress regular. Well, he second-guessed, looking at the tattoo, rain-covered boy. Put on a button-up shirt. Just don't stand out. This is a 4-star hotel. He's going to text me the room number when he knows it. Then I'll text you. He's going to leave the key under the doormat. Just go in and make yourself comfortable. And what does he want? He wants to give you some head, Margot said. Oh, he want to suck my dick? Yeah, you know those white motherfuckers ain't playing with a full deck, Margot said as he sat back, taking another swallow of Merlot. He'll give you $1,000 when you're done. Bet. Well, I'm about to get up and out of here, the boy said. All right. Margot stood up to walk him out. He stepped back after opening the front door. Peace, he could hear from the other side. Oh, what up, brother? Tekk asked Margot's departing guest. Tekk seemed to be in a good mood. His duffel bag had become as much of a staple as his dreadlocks. Come inside, Margot instructed, hoping that no one would ask any questions. Who was that? My weed man, Margot said. Oh, you got some chronic? Tekk asked. Yup, he confirmed, thankful that he had leftover weed to assist him in the story. As they got inside, Tekk dropped his life bag to the floor. "Brother, where do you sleep most nights?" Margot asked. "Wherever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspires me to lay my head, bro." Margot sat in the same place where he just received fellatio. "So, like tonight, brother, where do you suppose Allah is going to inspire you to sleep?" "I have no idea," Tekk said. "This ain't sleep time for me right now. I'll cross that bridge when I get to it." "Well, you can chill here for the night, man," Margot said as he dropped his half bag full of weed on a table with a blunt wrap. 5 minutes later. "So what's it like?" Tekk asked as he lit the blunt and kicked his feet out as if the smoke were refreshing. "What's what like?" Margot asked. "Africa." "Shit, brother. If you go out there with the right money, then it's like heaven on earth. It's going to especially be good for you because you already got that attractive energy about you." Margot got up and cut himself a piece of cake. "I can see the people in the village really taking to you," Margot said as he took a bite of cake to put something in his stomach before Tekk passed him his blunt. "Did I ever tell you," he asked before chewing, "that the council of elders would consider making me a chief of the village?" "Nah," Tekk said as he passed the weed, then set himself in front of the computer. "Yeah, this was a few years back when the chief at the time was growing sick. As much as I would have liked to accept, that position came with some serious responsibilities that I wasn't prepared to meet at the time." Margot let the smoke hit him while he sat back and gave thought. "Now remember, brother, we want to establish a high-level organization out there. It's important for my overall mission." "Which is?" Tekk asked. "To make money, brother." He chuckled like a greedy entrepreneur. "So we go out there, we keep building on the estate, we organize the brothers." Margot tried to read Tekk, who seemed curiously unmoved. He passed the blunt back to him. "Give it a couple of years. You'll be able to bring your girls out there with you. But I tell you what, you stay here, you're going to jail. Maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but they're going to get you eventually. And they're going to get you as soon as you slip and think you're a normal, regular citizen again." Tekk agreed with a nod of his head. Margot continued. "I've been thinking, brother, we're going to need something to keep the brothers in check, to keep them close. Maybe we could start a fraternity. You have colors. You say this color's for this shit, that color's for that shit. You have symbols. You give them meanings. This is all the shit that the soldiers are really going to rally around. You initiate them hard enough, and you do the right thing, some of them will give their lives for the cause." 5 hours later. Margot's sweaty, sleeping body lay completely flat atop his mattress, as if prepared to rise at a moment's notice. He opened his eyes at once, breaking his slumber to investigate the unusual noise coming from the living room. Tekk was not only up already, but doing push-ups. He was using Margot's set of 20-pound dumbbells to combine a rowing movement at the top of each push-up. The sound of the cast iron returning to the floor was the sound that woke Margot. "Good morning," Margot greeted. "Good morning, bro," Tekk said just as he finished his set. "You hungry, brother?" "Now, you know I want something to eat," Tekk said, sucking in air and wiping the sweat from his forehead with the bottom of his tank top. 1 hour later. And every summer, she would have about 30 people come over and work for her. She was a tough, very tough woman. Tekk chuckled lightly. "A shrewd businesswoman, huh?" he asked rhetorically, his eyes observing the sparrows battling for their turn at the bird feeder, which Margot personally staked to the ground. "Oh, hell yes. My grandmother didn't take no shit. I remember one time we called ourselves going on strike." Margot's face lit up as he lowered his glass of water to the table. "We called ourselves standing up for a change. So me and my brothers ran the shit past all the workers, and we like, fuck it, we gonna do it." Tekk bust out laughing. "So the time come to strike, and we the only ones not working and shit. Grandma found out it was us behind it, She said, "Oh, y'all don't want to work, huh? Y'all don't have to. Y'all just won't eat." And damn if she wasn't serious. The two men both took notice of a red-breasted robin taking a nearness to Tekk. The small bird hopped and hopped, then checked, then hopped and checked some more. "She didn't feed us nothing," Margot said, continuing his story. "I remember we was hungry as shit." Both men gave a final round of chuckles. "They don't never get that close," Margot said of the bird that now had both men's full attention. The robin approached Tekk like it had something to say, but as soon as the bird closed in, it flew away suddenly, back into the summer. 4 hours later. After a day of smoking, eating, chatting, and catnapping, Tekk was ready to move on. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da. Have you seen her? Margot sang along to the radio. Fresh off brushing his teeth, Tekk was securing his head to his toothbrush in a piece of foil. He then swallowed the toothbrush in a plastic bag and stuffed it inside his duffel bag. "Tell me, have you seen her?" "Brother," Tekk asked, "when do you make your prayers?" "I get it in the morning, mostly," Margot said. "Oh, okay," Tekk said in that diplomatic manner of his. He reached down and took hold of his bag. Margot cut off the radio, hit the light switch, then stepped outside. "So what's next for you, bro? What you gonna do?" "Why everybody keep asking me what the hell I'm gonna do?" Tekk asked. "I'm gonna make Salah, make music, and fight. I mean, what else is there to do? What are you gonna do?" Margot kneeled to a knee to tie a sneaker. "I'm taking my black ass to the motherland, okay? Shit. I'm done with this America shit. Oh, and speaking of which, I got something for you," Margot said as he searched around his pockets for the keys to the door he just shut. "I'll be right back." He returned inside and scampered through a pile of papers on a nightstand. Back outside, the quiet Bronx night was covering the dread who'd taken a seat atop a silver Nissan. Margot handed him a small booklet. "Who's this?" Tekk asked. "You," Margot advised. Tekk looked again at the woman's picture on the passport. "What?" he asked. "That's how you gonna get to Africa." Once again, Tekk looked. His mind began to put the pieces together. Margot made it plain for him. "The first thing you're gonna have to do is not get your dreads twisted for a while. Let a good amount of new growth come in. Then you could kind of pull it back and put some gel right here," he said, reaching around Tekk's hairline. "Wax all this clean," he said of Tekk's facial hair. "Then just pull your hair back tight and high and braid the locks into a single braid." Margot's face told a tale of him deeply visioning it all. "We could even add some fake hair to it, make it a long French braid. Put you in a nice pink outfit." Yo, Tekk pumped the brakes. "I ain't about to be dressing up like no motherfucking woman. You out your mind?" "Tekk, listen. I commend you for making it this far. I really do. But seriously, brother, there's no way that you're going to be able to keep this up much longer. Take this shot, this one shot, and you're free. Free." Margot could see that his words were beginning to process differently in the realm of Tekk's brain. And so, as any good salesman would, Margot assumed the close. "You need to lose weight. Don't do no shoulder exercises until it's all over. Work your chest. You want to accentuate it. And the same thing with your butt. We're going to have to slap some makeup on you, and boom, Africa." 7:03 p.m. the same day. Back on his quest for capital, Margot found himself making phone call after phone call and sending numerous emails. After refreshing his Hotmail inbox, he was pleasantly surprised with the prospect of cash. "Hello, my name is Elizabeth, and I'm writing in response to the photograph that you posted on Craigslist. I'm very much interested in it. Is it still available? Is $1,000 your final price?" Reply: "Yes, this is still available. However, I have someone interested at the $1,000 price. If it doesn't work out for them, I'd be willing to negotiate the price with you. After sending his reply, Margot accessed Stephanie's number from his e-phone book and dialed her up. As had been the case for the past few times, the call went straight to voicemail. Hi, Stephanie. This is Margot. I got a buyer for the final pictures. I need some more. Call me. I'm actually starting to get worried about you. I haven't heard from you in a few weeks. Hope all is well. 10:34 p.m. the same night. New York City had been under the cover of a heavy downpour of rain for the past few hours. The summer was disappearing. It was chilly outside, windy. The precipitation was relentless. Out of the slow jam, incense-lit ambiance, Margot could hear knocking coming from the front door. He tiptoed into the bedroom where he could peep through the window. He could have sworn that he had drawn his blinds shut, but to his disappointment, he hadn't. He and Detective Brown were looking eye to eye through the window. Margot held out his hand to signal that he was going around to open up. Detective Brown was wearing sneakers and jeans. His bulletproof vest was strapped snugly over his white t-shirt. What you thought? I couldn't find where you lived? He asked as he wiped his feet on the mat that he was standing upon. He looked at Margot as if he had some joke in his mind. So where's Tekk? He asked. Margot shot out the first thing that came to his mind. He's in Brooklyn. Brooklyn? Yeah, he'll be back over here on Friday. What do you mean, back over? Detective Brown asked, folding his arms across his broad chest. He came here yesterday, but he was in and out so quickly that I didn't bother calling you, especially since I made him promise to come back on Friday. Margot, you fat, full of shit motherfucker. Now Margot was growing apprehensive. Detective Brown seemed to be a little off, more of a robber than a cop. His mouth was foul, and one could tell just by how he stood that he had much to prove. Ever cool under pressure, you can either get him in Brooklyn or you can nab him here on Friday when he comes over here, Margot said. He had been telling lies his whole life. They came naturally to him. He knew chances were slim that Brown would be down to scour the streets of Brooklyn in one car looking for one man when the alternative was so easy. And where's he at in Brooklyn? Brown asked. No particular place, I guess. He's homeless, living on the streets. Margot, don't fuck around with me. If he's living in the streets, then why the hell does he have to be in Brooklyn to do it? Damned if I know. Margot hardened his face as if appalled for being taken as a liar. Well, how'd he get in contact with you? Brown asked. He just came over. Tell you what. Detective Brown stiffened up further, locking into Margot's eyes with a deadly intent. I had a little issue with my father the other night. That's the only reason I didn't follow through with your ass then. So here's what I'll do. He flicked at his nose, more so to display the mass of his arms than an itch or scratch. I'm going to come here next Friday, and I'm going to either arrest Tekk or I'm going to put a felony on you and arrest you. The choice is yours. He patted Margot gently on his belly. Fat boy. He'll be here, Margot said, still cool. Within a minute of Brown's exit, Margot picked up his phone and dialed the senator. He went back into his bedroom and checked out of the window again, where he could see Detective Brown's vehicle turn a right onto 80 Avenue. Yeah, Senator, listen, I need a favor. You do this for me, and I'll make sure we'll have Tekk by next Friday. 9:18 a.m. the next day. While standing online at the post office, Margot tried again to reach Stephanie by phone to no avail. The photo distribution business had been bringing him in a few extra dollars per week, and he desperately wanted to keep it going. Margot left yet another voicemail for her to call him back. With his phone still in his hand and the line still not moving, Margot decided to call Fatima to check on her. She too didn't answer. Margot? Hey, Hollis, Margot said as he looked over his shoulder. What you doing here? That's the little man? He asked, looking at the baby in her arms. Hollis was a glow of brown and joy, and her child was none the less. Yup, she confirmed. His father lived not too far from here. I was actually dropping something off of my mom, she said, flashing a small box in her hand. Okay, Margot said, nodding his head. Look at him, he said, looking at Tekk's grandson with wonder. Yeah, he just finished eating, so he ready to pass out. Margot noticed that Hollis was attempting to grow dreads again. For all her endeavors in the world of fashion and business, she had taken to a simple dress code and conduct. She was a mother now. So how you been? Margot asked. I've been blessed. You know how the Lord do. Hollis testified like a prophetess amidst her glow of God. Next, the post worker at the window shouted. All right, honey, I'm going to go ahead. You be good, Margot said, relieved that he didn't have to spend too much time bathing in her positivity. 41 minutes later. Mark had grown to look forward to his daily commute on the 5 train. He loved to study people, and there was no shortage of testaments to God's diverse, unique creation of people on the 5 train. At 174th Street, a tank top sporting, muscle-bound brother stepped aboard, taking all of Margot's attention and some of the wind in his chest. Margot peeped, then looked away, then peeped before looking away again. As the train pulled into Simpson Street, Margot got up and walked closer to the God of a man. He pretended to study the map that was posted next to the door that the man was leaned against. Bro, you know I can get to Penn Station? Margot asked, after moments of looking puzzled and in need of help. Yeah, take this to 149th and wait for the 2. That'll take you right there, he answered kindly. The 2 train? Margot asked, still playing puzzled. Yeah. After a moment or two of sneaky admiration, Margot pushed further. I'm going shopping. They have some good shoe stores down there? At Penn Station? The pumped-up dog asked, pushing his Ray-Ban shades closer to his face. They might. I think they got an Aldo out there. You should probably try 8th Avenue. There was something in that response that was assuring to Margot. Suddenly, he used the shifting of the train as an excuse to fall into the brother. Sorry about that, Margot said as he gathered himself by planting his hands firmly on his chest. Sorry, he said, sensing no real resistance. Margot decided to swing for the home run. Tell you what, I'll give you $50 if you roll with me and help me find some shoes. 3 hours later. Margot thanked God as he confirmed that the box that he tore up the room looking for was still at the bottom of the closet. He opened up and confirmed that the clothes that Fatima left were still there. I got something for you, Margot said, re-entering the living room where Tekk was critically examining himself. This shit feel gay as fuck, man, Tekk said from above, the hip-hugging padded jeans on his butt. Margot chuckled, knowing what sort of challenge this must be for an alpha male. Shit, you look good, nigga, he said somewhere between kidding and the truth. Yo, man, don't make me kick your motherfucking ass, Margot, Tekk said as he pumped the blood through his muscles and forearms to prove that he wasn't a bitch. You gotta lose the shoulders, Margot responded, virtually ignoring the threat. He reached in the bag in his hand and pulled out the hair products and halter tops. Tekk's cheap excuse for a phone buzzed as a call was coming in. Peace, the dread answered, stepping away from Margot, who was holding a pastel piece in front of his chest. Ain't nothing. How you? Tekk asked into the phone. Taking a break, Margot went to the fridge to pour something to drink. I'm here with Margot right now, he could hear Tekk say, his ears now tuned into the conversation. Oh, okay. Yeah? Tekk's face turned with curious attention. Where you at? Margot hoped, with all he had, that Stephanie wasn't on the other end of the phone. Okay. Peace, Tekk said before Margot could suspect anything else. Who was that? Margot asked, lighting up the blunt they failed to finish smoking earlier. Hollis, Tekk informed him. Oh yeah? How's she doing? Margot asked, only slightly convinced that Tekk was being honest. He still had a faint, uncertain gaze across his face. Good, good, he said as he lowered his phone to the desk beside him. I gotta go to the bathroom real quick, he said as he excused himself. In his suspicion, Margot walked over to the desk. He took another pull from the blunt before accessing Tekk's phone call log. Incoming calls. Number 1, Stephanie. Number 2, Candace. Number 3, Gwen. Number 4, Hollis. Number 5, Candace. The bathroom door shot open, and Margot was looking eye to eye with Tekk. What's up, brother? Tekk asked, wiping his hands with a paper towel. I was trying to get Hollis's number. Margot didn't break his stride in bullshit. I saw her at the post office the other day and wanted to ask her something. Yeah? Tekk asked lightly. Yeah, she was telling me her business is picking up. I wanted to give her this website for grants. How well do you know your Quran, brother? Pretty good. Why? Margot asked, somewhat nervous, knowing Tekk was about to come with some heat. The dread said, I was wondering if you could help me understand something. Margot found himself terribly uneasy. He knew how extensively Tekk studied the Quran. He made it his life work to teach the book. It wasn't likely that Margot would be able to instruct the apostle. Tekk dug in his life bag and removed his life book, the Quran. He stood where he was to scroll for what he sought. He divided the text in a specific location and read aloud. In the name of God, most beneficent, most merciful, by the star when it goes down, your companion is neither astray nor being misled, nor does he say order his own desire. It is no less than inspiration sent down to him. He was taught by one mighty in power. What does Allah mean by this? Tekk questioned. I don't know, brother, Margot admitted. Tekk hemmed, all the serious despite his pinned up hair, waxed body, and animal print woman's flats. So I fly out next week, huh? He asked, weirdly, shifting the situation. Yup, Margot affirmed, not looking to hold on to anything from Tekk's mystery question. Kofi's gonna meet you at the airport and get you all settled in. Your boy's going to the motherland, Tekk said, smiling as he began to come out of his jeans. Yup, Africa, Margot said. You're gonna like it out there, brother. Now standing in the middle of the living room in his boxer shorts, Tekk reached for his baggy blue jeans. I just gotta be a bitch for a day to get there, Tekk said in such a way that Margot couldn't read his intent. Tekk threw his shirt over his chest. But I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it because it's in the best interest for me. Your heart is perverse. Your thoughts are rooted in wickedness, and you a real piece of shit, Tekk said with raw bass in his voice, but nothing that suggested that he was gonna pounce on Margot. But Allah will be the judge between you and I. Tekk grabbed his bag of feminine accessories and left as peacefully as he'd come. Friday, September 2nd, 2011. I want some collateral. For what? The senator asked on the other side of the phone. To ensure that I get my payment, man, Margot said firm. He switched the side of his head that he was holding his phone to. Margot, our position remains the same. If you provide us with information that leads to the arrest, you'll get half of the money that day and half in 2 equal installments. Margot considered as if he hadn't already. Yet, he didn't wrestle long with his thoughts. He simply spit it out. Tekk is going to be at Kennedy Airport next Friday, boarding a flight to Ghana. Okay, the senator said. Margot could sense the man's anxiousness for more details. He's going to be dressed as a woman, Margot said. What? The senator asked. Yeah, he's going to have his dreads braided into a cornrows, and he's going to have a pair of leopard print shoes and a halter top. Jason Architect Jordan, 1,000 miles. Friday, September 2nd, 2011. It's mind over matter with this game. Know what I mean? Tekk asked her, looking straight into her eyes with severity. Marilyn continued with a sweaty, faint head nod of hers. The fists of her hands planted on her hips in exhaustion. All I know is, Tekk continued, when I squat down into the start position and I get my grip, he pumped up his bulky, vein-wrapped forearms. When I come up, I'm coming up whatever the fuck is in my hand. You can believe that shit. I don't care how much weight it is. Now thoroughly motivated to finish her last set, Marilyn got into the ready position. We don't take tests and fail them, Tekk yelled as she fired through her first repetition. That's right, squeeze that big old booty, he encouraged her playfully. Be quiet, she said in her New York Creole accent, smiling like she wanted him to do anything but stop. 9 and 10. Good, Tekk said, reaching out a strong fist to dap up the sister. Now you're done. You want a shake? She asked. I sure do, Tekk said, eyeballing her backside as she made her way into the kitchen. I've been working on this new relaxation technique. Yeah? Marilyn asked. Yeah, to help the recovery process. That way you can get the most out of your workouts, he advised. Yeah, I want to try it, she said, handing him the cup of sea moss protein shake and sticking the container back in the fridge. All right, you may want to take a shower first, though. You don't want to be all sticky doing this shit. 23 minutes later. Ah, Marilyn said in refreshment, grabbing her loose towel as she left the bathroom and tightening it around her breast. She paused right where Tekk could see her from where he was sitting in the living room. She sucked her teeth as if frustrated that the towel wouldn't cooperate. Tekk felt like his penis was going to stand up and walk over to her on his own. He spoke to himself in the privacy of his head. Nigga, if you fuck her, you could say goodbye to that $50 every Friday. Just chill, son. Just chill. He got up and moved to the coffee table near the wall unit as to clear the floor area. The stern blood flow in his pants had just soothed away when the caramel-toned big butt booty came prancing out of her room in a sheer top and a pair of white leggings, which Tekk quickly noticed had no panties beneath. Okay, Tekk said for the sake of saying something. So, he carried on. Marilyn fell over in laughter, and a dread followed suit. What? She asked with what Tekk took to be a certain level of sexiness in her tone. Nothing, he said, smiling, pulling his gaze away from her juicy hips. All right, he clapped his hands and moved on. So, you're going to lay down flat on your back. Tekk squatted atop the plush, beige carpet, and Marilyn did the same. Now, I want you to stretch your limbs out fully, keep your palms and hands up, he instructed. Now breathe deeply. In, out. Just relax. 6:39 a.m. the next day. Tekk was sure to wake up before Marilyn. That way, it would look like he fell asleep inadvertently as opposed to stealing a night of comfortable rest. Within moments of coming to, Tekk snuck out unannounced into the purple sky pre-dawn. He took a deep inhale of Allah's air before making his way across to the store. He grabbed a nutrient and a bag of peanuts and checked out the newspaper as he took in his pre-workout meal. He conversed and laughed with several patrons who stopped in on their way to work. He did some light stretching and got ready for his own day. 14 minutes later. Good morning, the dread greeted the groundskeeper who was sweeping leaves into a dustpan. He walked into the park, still stretching out his upper back muscles. Hey, I was looking for you yesterday. I didn't see you, the short Nuyorican said. She seemed to enjoy watching Tekk sweat out reps of pull-ups on the monkey bars. She inadvertently pushed him harder, as Tekk knew she and a few scattered others were watching. As usual, Tekk went into the bathroom first. Following his prayer cleansing routine to the best of his ability, he washed his hands, face, behind his ears, and forearms. His heart was wary of doing certain things in public, so he was careful, which kept him sharp. He understood that it was important for the brotherhood that people not see him looking too strange or dirty or in lack of. He had to flow with the society around him, or at least appear to be. Therefore, they could never see him sleep, though he slept right outside their homes, right under their noses. They could never see him weak, although his lower back, knees, and hips were killing him. His feet were aching. Sometimes 3 days went by before he got a chance to kick off his shoes. Tekk raised both his palms near his earlobes and testified that God was great. He began his first prayer of the day. For all his living on the edge, Tekk was well protected from unseen sources. Every prayer was guarded. Every time he burnt that sticky, illegal substance wherever he chose, he was protected on the A train as he slept and his body coasted between Washington Heights and Queens, then back again during the wee hours of the morning. And every studio session and every hike across the big sprawling rotten apple was protected. I mean, he concluded his prayer. Tekk did his push-ups with his feet elevated on the park benches, and he brought his chest to the earth. He did his pull-ups on the monkey bars. His dips he did on the parallel bars between the slides. One grueling set after another he put his body through.
3 hours later, Tekk handed the agent his ticket as he kicked back his seat and waited for his cell phone to connect. "Hey, what's up, brother?" he asked as Margot answered. "Yo, bro, I need you to put all that information on my trip under a different name." "Why?" Margot asked. "The guy printed the wrong name on a fake ID." Margot sucked his teeth through the receiver. "Those ghetto-ass niggas," he said. "All right, that shouldn't be too much of a problem. What name is on there?" Tekk took a bite from the banana he removed from the side pocket of his bag. "Candace Brown," he said. "Candace Brown," Margot repeated. "So I need to have the plane ticket and passport in that name, right?" "Right," Tekk affirmed, happy Margot didn't recognize the name and question him further. "Okay, but otherwise you're all set. I spoke to Kofi. They know what time you land and everything. This is going to be a great new beginning for you, brother." "Yeah, no doubt," Tekk said. After a short ride on the Metro North, Tekk made it to the campus of Ione College in New Rochelle. As he scaled the staircase of Bradley Hall, he grew thankful that he would soon be able to put his heavy bag that was pulling his side down and get a few hours of sleep. Candace's room door was already open. Tekk walked in and closed it behind him. "Peace, peace. How you?" he asked. "You all right?" Candace asked the man as he flopped down into the only chair in the small room. She went over to her small refrigerator and took out a container of fruit salad and brought it over. Now Candace was Tekk's finest student. She had in many ways been resurrected through Tekk, through God. An experiment with drugs, Candace's life of yesteryear had begun to slip to a dangerous extent. But Tekk was the one who saw greater potential in her life than that of an addict. His intervention included a holistic and complete plan for her development. There wasn't much left for chance. First, he developed an education agenda for her, which landed her in college. Along with her studies came an exercise and prayer regimen and what was, for all intents and purposes, an internship with his record company. The plan was for her to become ordinary. Tekk needed an ordinary chick who had never said the word Allah on the phone, who went to school, was never arrested, not overly popular, but well-known, and she needed to pledge full allegiance to the plan. Today, Candace was fully matriculated student at Ione College, enrolled in the School of Social Sciences. This assignment was perfect for her, especially now that she could be alone
with her real teacher in her single occupancy room, which she got from resident services by telling them that she was pregnant and in need of her space. Even the room was a part of the plan. It's as if Tekk knew this very day would come, and now he was here and missed breakfast with access to a communal shower, the internet, and a cozy bed. Tekk couldn't come at night because the resident hall director would certainly grow weary of his presence, so he came while she was off to the main campus daily. Weekends were off limits. Showers were quick. It chewed at his pride to be a grown man living this way, but it was what it was. "Yo, I got a mission for you," the dread said as he came out of his tank top and got ready for his shower. "Okay," Candace said, almost eager to hear what he had come up with this time. "There's gonna be some money involved in it," he informed her, reading her face thoroughly, yet quickly, before taking his eyes back to himself. "Once again, I'm gonna need you to stick to the script 100%. Candace held up her psychology statistics textbook and posed with it. "Don't I always?" she asked rhetorically. 8:05 p.m., the same day. Tekk tried to read Gwen as to avoid asking the questions, yet she seemed to be as good at bending reality as he was. "Well, you slept last night?" he asked his youngest daughter, checking out her new gray polo sweats. "My friend Naja's house." "You?" she shot right back. "One of my clients' cribs," he decided quickly, just to leave the issue alone. He removed his Quran from his bag and parted it. "You ready?" he asked, handing her the book. Gwen nodded her head and got straight to reading. "In the name of God, the most beneficent, the most merciful." She cleared her throat. "Praise be to God who took his servant on a journey by night from the sacred mosque to the furthest mosque, in order that we may instruct him in our signs." "All right, stop." The bass and flare in Tekk's voice caused Gwen to jump back. "What does that mean?" he asked. "Well, he hasn't established any meaning yet, Daddy," Gwen said, mildly frustrated that she didn't see the point of her dad's haste and zeal. "What you mean? This is a Quranic verse. Of course it has meaning." Okay. She looked away and let her mind work. "Well, it's obvious what the beginning is saying. All praise due to Allah. He is that dude," she joked. But since she was giving proper glory to God, Tekk just smirked through it. "His servant? I don't know. That's like us, she supposed." "Okay," Tekk said, looking into her face with the pride that he could only have for his daughter. Gwen continued. "He took his servant on a journey by night from the sacred mosque to the furthest mosque." "Okay, so we're going on a journey from one place to another place of comfort?" She tried to find the right words as her aggravation and impatience began to surface. "And whatever to a better place?" "No," Tekk said, as serious as he wanted to. "Ain't no damn whatever, Gwen. You're a writer and an artist. You gotta be past saying shit like whatever to describe things." "Oh, but I can say shit like shit?" she asked, as serious yet playful as him. "Listen, little nigga," Tekk said with more of his eyes in his mouth, before he succumbed to following Gwen to a lighter place of laughter. "I'm just playing, Daddy. I know what you're saying." "Come on now," he said after a few moments, clapping his hands with energy. "Let's figure this out. Let's go. So we got Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taking his servant, us or you, on a journey by night," he said, holding his right hand up as if presenting the night sky as evidence. "And he's taking him from one mosque to the sacred mosque to the furthest mosque. So this is a difficult journey," he suggested, raising his voice with life all the while. "But Allah is taking his servant, these servants, because although this is talking to you, there's also a historical component. This is referring to the trip that the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, took when he left Mecca. So Allah is informing the reader the path, the way. So he's going to secure you. Then he's going to pull you away from that which you perceive as security. And this is so he, Allah, can demonstrate his power unto you, so that we may know that this only security is through him." Gwen nodded her head in deep understanding. Tekk continued. In the next verse, he's saying similarly, we gave Moses the scripture, so he's showing us that this is the way of the brotherhood. This is the way. He emphasized, there's no other way. Again, she confirmed her understanding non-verbally. Gwen nodded. And who is this we that he's referring to? Tekk asked. God and his creation, she answered. Good. 17 minutes later. Gwen finished reading the chapter and closed the father's Quran respectfully and hastily. Glad to be done for the night. She reclined in the seat as Tekk pulled out a blunt and sparked it. I got a spot at this poetry reading in the Bronx on Friday. Yeah? Tekk asked. Yup, it's paid too. Good, he said, passing her the blunt and leaning low. So you don't have no interest in going back to college, huh? Not right now, Daddy, she said, engulfing a whiff of smoke through her nose like a pro. All right, Tekk said quickly, removing any burden of further explanation. Listen, he said, I'm giving you 10 grand, all right? Scratch that. He corrected himself. I'm investing 10 grand into you and your craft. Gwen looked at him strange as she passed the blunt back. Where you getting 10 grand from, Daddy? He held the pour out as if to slow the crimpy-haired beauty down. Just chill and do the right thing with the money. Whatever, Daddy. Tekk put out the blunt on Gwen's fruit punch bottle top and set the quarter Dutch on the dash. All right, take your pad out. Let's get to work. They left the car parked on one of Upper Manhattan's back blocks and got to stepping. Gwen chose to go to the left. She headed straight across the street as soon as they left the car, like she planned it. Tekk moved along the concrete in his Phil Tims and Levi's. There was something in his own swagger that brought the lyrics to him quickly. He pulled no punches about spitting his verses. Bold, brazen even. He put his hands and more swagger into his freestyle rhyme. I am like a new world nigga, the faithful, the God Avenger, a seldom sinner, gaudy jury sporter, a prize winner. Y'all niggas good as chicken dinners when I step up in this. Relentless, I let my nine click, my killing's righteous. I fight with this pen and fist. Y'all quick to quit, sick as shit. You in your bed snoozing, I'm doing dips, who live in it? The dread just went on, demonstrating a sort of mastery of his ability. He was way past the pen and paper. He was way past needing a beat or hype man or entourage. There was only the dread and the law. He kept walking through the blocks, practicing his rhyme. This was his classroom. In his attempt to instill the ways that work with him on his daughter, he had Gwen on the other side of town struggling in the ways of the Lord in her own right. Tekk used to refer to this as fighting the night. But as he got out there, being pulled out there, he was able to bear witness that most of the nights didn't fight with him. It was all in his mind. He was a freshman in this brotherhood of the Lord. Now, a seasoned veteran, he just rolled with the punches. He didn't give a shit what lay around what next corner. He was going to brave it out. But truthfully, he was beginning to feel like God had ordered more angels to his service. And this was the reason his path remained so smooth. The reason he felt comfortable sending his daughter on a mission during this time of night. He had faith. 1 hour and 33 minutes later. Returning to the car, Gwen removed her garment from a face that her father had given her for protection. They both sat for a moment in raw silence. It was all right out there? Tekk asked of Gwen, who nodded her head with a degree of toughness from the driver's seat. So what you got for me? He asked. Gwen opened her composition notebook where her pen rests. She took a deep breath before reading. The clouds, too, they submit to his will. Traveling from east to west as we approach one of the holiest months. A small, mere strip of a cloud steps across the lamp of the night with arrogance, beauty, and the distinctness of an innocent child. I'm compelled to testify, but I can't find my pen. So I'm charged with recording what I see and commanded to at some point transcribe it from memory, and further challenged to fit it in the context of life. I got this, God. I got this. Tekk gave thought for a moment, then he buried his face in his hands to keep from laughing aloud. What? Gwen asked in a high-pitched ghetto-ness. It's cool, but what are you trying to say, baby? Gwen fired a notebook at him like a boomerang. Daddy. Tekk bust out laughing. What, baby? He asked. All right, read it again. No, she hollered as she turned straight in the seat. You're going too deep, baby, Tekk said, still chuckling, with his shoulders kept in a ready position to defend him from another blow. Even through the tough grill she was giving him, he could only see innocence and beauty. Daddy, would you stop playing? Gwen said before cracking up in her own chuckles. It does make sense. You just got to get into it. I'm telling Allah that I can handle my assignment, that I got this, she said, pulling out her sour diesel joint and her phone. Tekk took notice of her new level of comfort around him. He simply let her do her. But that's the thing, baby, he said. The people got to get it. They got to understand what you're trying to say, boo. To hell with the people. To hell with the people, he repeated. The people is the whole purpose, baby. You ain't writing this shit for yourself. Gwen fired back through her smoke, which was already closing her eyes. I'm writing to give glory to God. Yeah, but as the prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, if you love God, serve your fellow man, Tekk instructed. You are Allah's slave. You're not just here to save your own ass. Gwen reached out to hand him the joint. I don't want none of that shit, he said. I don't know how you smoke that strong-ass weed and keep going, Tekk said, not a fan of super potent marijuana. And don't smoke yourself fucking stupid. Make sure you can still work. Tekk looked away to check the streets surrounding him. Before Tekk's mind could get to pondering on that which he was pondering on, Gwen spoke up. It's not writer's block. It's a state to which my intensity surpasses my situation. My testament can't be contained. Anyone who knows me should know that this is ordained. To expect a different flavor with the same ingredients is insane. Alas, I must change. It must be strange, listening to the thoughts flowing from the twist of my brain. But that's okay. I'm not going to let you stop me from doing my motherfucking thing. Oh, shit, Tekk said, smiling. Now that was good, he confessed. But now how you going to record the shit? You ain't write it down. Gwen didn't even bother answering the question. She shrugged her shoulders behind some carelessness of youth and confidence. Let's go see Hollis, she said. I bet, Tekk agreed promptly. 2:38 a.m., the same night. Yo, y'all scared the mess out of me, Hollis said as she opened the door in a hoodie and black sweatpants. I'm like, who's knocking on my door at 4 a.m? I was about to wake up Reggie. Oh, he here? Tekk asked. Yeah, he in the back with Karan, Hollis said. Where y'all coming from? Doing a little building, Tekk answered mysteriously. Hollis looked at Gwen. You all right? She asked her as if she somehow knew the rigors of her unspoken test. I'm good, Gwen assured her. Yo, we about to be rich, Hollis said, leading them into the living room. She took a seat in front of her laptop. Read this, she said to her dad. Congratulations, Lioness Williams has agreed to wear your shirt to this year's American Music Awards. Please mail the shirt to Capital of the Empire Records, 24003 Broadway, New York, 19303, care of Chris Watley. Hollis began to smile at her father, who began to smile at the computer monitor. You know how many sales that's going to bring in? She asked. That's good, honey, Tekk said. But I told you about that word, rich. Don't get ahead of yourself. Right, you're right. We just going to have stupid money, she said, slapping her sister a 5. 10:11 a.m. the next day. Tekk felt exceptional strolling down a quiet, sun-stained Bronx street. Nike bag over his right shoulder, a resistance band slung around his neck, and bottle of water in his left hand. He was a walking gym. Young black women went out of their way to get away from him, but Tekk knew them well, so he didn't take it personally. Old black men gazed as if trying to learn as much about him as possible while he was in their scope. The drunk and mentally disturbed people seemed to sober up and walk by. The young approached. The whites were attracted. The Caribbeans were intimidated. But little or none of them outprayed the all-American dread. So the angels walking down the streets with Tekk were unchallenged. No matter what the people thought, no matter what they did, Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, it didn't matter where God sent the servant. He sent them in peace. And the fucking Con Edison bill didn't come yet. Oh my God. Big Vinny was an exception to the rule. He was going to talk to Tekk whenever and wherever he saw him, running everything from his gas bill to his erectile dysfunction past him. How do you do it? Vinny asked Tekk after 2 minutes of venting. I pray, brother, Tekk said simply with his childlike smile. Oh, yeah, I used to do that. Tekk laughed. All right, brother. I got this dude waiting on me to start his training. I'm going to holler at you, all right? All right, man, be good, Vinny said in his old, tough Italian tone. 8 minutes later. Remember, with this training, you're taking a gradual approach towards building the muscle. We don't want to just hammer the shit, Tekk said while stretching his upper back. But I want really big guns like yours, the overzealous 40-something-year-old Belgian advised Tekk once again. All right, man, I heard you. And I heard you the last 3 times you told me that shit. I told you. I got you, Tekk said. All right, now stand up straight. It frustrated Tekk that this grown-ass man who society deemed important enough to pay over $150K a year couldn't stand up straight. Tekk grabbed him by the arms and adjusted him sternly. Straight, nigga, straight, he said. Ouch. Ouch, Tekk looked him in the eye. Your punk ass talking about you want diesel arms and you got the nerve to be sitting up here talking about ouch? Give me 20 push-ups. 3:15 p.m. the same day. Tekk's third client for the day was a Dominican sister who was training out of the park on Avenue D in the Canarsie section of Brooklyn. Like most of his female clients, she wanted to focus on her ass and abs. At the conclusion of the session, he'll see her grab her pocketbook and reach for her $40 to cover her week of training. My jeans are getting tight, she said, blushing as she handed him the money. Yeah, that booty poking out good, he said, checking her out in a way that's to keep her comfortable. So next time, we're going to start the same way. Pre-exhaust those glutes, then we're going to hammer them. Okay, thanks, Tekk. Oh, thank you, he said politely and grateful for her business. He pointed to the monkey bars behind him. I'm going to stay here and do a little workout myself, he informed her before she went back to her busy life. 7 minutes later. Today, Tekk felt extra comfortable bringing his chest to the bar. His muscles were with him. His mental strength was all the way up. He decided to try a muscle-up movement for the first time. A pull-up that goes straight into a dip over the top of the bar. An extraordinary feat of strength and agility. Tekk eyeballed the bar as if trying to silently converse with it. Then he went for it. Whoa! He could hear one of the kids from the swings behind him. Without knowing, the kids gave him an extra energy he needed to turn his trial muscle up into 8 straight, groaning, grueling, badass repetitions. He let go of the bar feeling like Superman, his back muscles stretching his tank top to his vertical limit. 2 hours later. The dread walked slow, as his life was his own. His Quran instructed him to lower his gaze and his pace. So he did. As with most points of life enhancement, it wasn't until Allah put him in position, almost forcing him, did Tekk understand how God was working on him. Tekk didn't compete with the people who were rushing home from work, rushing only because they spent most of their days planting seeds for someone else. Getting home quicker for them meant the difference between planting something, anything for themselves, or having only enough time to do it all over again tomorrow. Tekk let them go in front of him. On the bus, he let them take the seats. He let them skip him on the lines at the bodega. He had effectively lowered his gaze and his pace so much that it was like half of the people didn't even see him. He was a stealth warrior, and only those who looked closely at his camouflage coat could see the stripes pinned on him. He was already a decorated hero, just like many of the country's other homeless men, veterans of war for the greater society, but marginalized by the same society. Tekk stopped taking his outcast status personally many moons ago. He was never one to be famous anyway. He was from an era where people picked up microphones because they had something to say, not because they wanted to be seen. He was a vet, a crowd mover, a father, a gold-selling artist. He was among those who had already surrendered their will to that of Almighty God. Therefore, his blessings were already with him, here on earth and this lifetime. Now Tekk was on a quality quest. He needed to put his best foot forward for the Lord, who would question him about his body of work. In his youth, he had to put out so much negativity that a mass cleanup was required to ensure that he got as close to God's face as possible when this life was done. The change of the weather was presenting new challenges to the walking warrior. Washing himself outside was becoming increasingly difficult, as it was just too cold. Therefore, he made the most of the bathrooms in the library. He kept up with his network via email. He kept on moving. 7:21 p.m., the same night. The Dread dipped into a Golden Crust restaurant across the street from the train station on Gun Hill Road in the Bronx. Tekk was pleased to see that the spot was mellow. He had a rough day, training clients in every borough of NYC, save for Staten Island. He did a personal 2-a-day today, executing his pulling movements in the morning and pushing exercises in the evening. Slow, with exhaustion, he set his bag on the stool beside him and went to the counter to place his order. "Stew chicken with rice and peas?" the cocoa-skinned cutie asked rhetorically as she reached behind her for an aluminum container. After eating dinner, Tekk walked down a few blocks to the mosque on Young Avenue, where he joined his brothers for the final prayer of the evening. 1:50 a.m. the same night. The A train was approaching Manhattan before slumber approached Tekk. He drifted to sleep, but there was no point of rest to be had here. His lower back was hurting him so bad that he didn't even want to examine it. He didn't touch or think about it because there was simply nothing he could do about it. From his sleep, Allah opened his eyes to a duo of officers aboard the train, further down from him. "What's your name?" one of the officers asked the man who was previously sprawled out sleeping. "Sit up, sir," the other officer said to the homeless brother. "You know you're not supposed to be laying down on the seats. I'm writing you a ticket." Tekk's hoodie smelled like yesterday and the day before that. Old saliva, absorbed sweat, weed, ketchup, and a hint of the mosque. He gathered himself and got off the train at the next stop. After searching high and low, near and far, Tekk ended up at the South Street Seaport. He stretched out as best he could across one of the benches. 10:10 a.m. the next day. Tekk's body was completely drained. The commute to New Rochelle seemed to take ages. He eventually pulled himself up the stairs to Candace's room. He showered quickly and got ready for a nap. "Did you hear that someone's been killing raccoons out here?" Candace asked as Tekk gave her a look as if to ask, "How the hell would I hear that?" He began massaging his own shoulders. "They found 3 raccoons shot dead across from campus this past week," she said. Being deprived of proper sleep had Tekk grumpy. "You got your bags packed?" he asked, completely dismissing the small talk. "Yes," she answered, pulling the bags from under the study desk. "Okay, So I'm not going to get on the plane, right? She asked. Tekk threw his upper body across the mattress. You're not going anywhere, he informed her. And what you got this big-ass home grandma knit sweater for? He asked, looking inside one of her open bags. You supposed to be going to Ghana, Africa. Does it really matter? Candace asked. Yes, Tekk insisted. Be properly prepared. We got to be able to sell this shit. We got a lot of money on the table. Okay, you want me to be prepared, but don't tell me exactly what we're doing? Candace, just trust me, Tekk said. She humbled the expression on her face and caught eyes with the dread. And make sure you don't wear a bra, he said before shutting his eyes for sleep. 3 hours later. Their train ride to the city was mostly quiet. It wasn't until they got to Harlem that Tekk took the time to hammer home the final details of the plan. When they departed from one another, Candace went straight to the airport and Tekk went straight to Taft Projects, his old hood. He hadn't been home since the night that changed his life. It was quiet outside, which Tekk was thankful for. Keeping behind his hoodie and shades, he dipped straight into building 1695 like a ghetto ninja. After 3 minutes of waiting for the elevator and nearly getting stuck going up twice, he made it to the 19th floor. He stopped in front of the apartment L and knocked on the door. Kalia, what up? Tekk asked his old friend as she opened up. Jason, what's up? She asked, reaching out and meeting him with a hug. It's all good, he assured her. You ready? We on the clock, he said, wasting no time. Yeah, come on. 39 minutes later. Tekk's face hadn't been so smooth and hairless since he was a teen. As he checked himself out in the mirror, he wrestled with himself mentally for wanting to question God. God, man, he shook his head. Pops, Father, he laughed. While doing so, he could see the stuffed bra on his chest go up and down like great big jugs of fun. He slipped on the final garment of his get-up, a fitted lavender top that read, Girls Just Want to Have Fun, across the front. He finally left the bathroom. How do I look? He asked, stepping to sight. Kalia turned around and checked out the Coke bottle-shaped, cross-dressed brother. Like one sexy bitch, she said. Ah, fuck you, Tekk said. Kalia's laughter overcame her. She was compelled to take a seat on the couch. Wait, she said, jumping right back to her feet. I got something else for you. 2 hours later. Tekk could see Detective Brown walking up behind Candace. He had the swagger of a man who was about to make a career arrest. Tekk raised the newspaper, clasped between his press-on-nail fingers, a little higher. Candace's face was riddled with fear as Brown took her by the shoulder. I finally got you, motherfucker. Tekk pulled out his phone, switching to video recorder mode. He recorded all that his eyes saw. He smiled, pleased with himself for sticking to the decision to not mention anything to Candace of the intricacies of the mission, as her raw reaction was priceless. His smile also was partly due to his satisfaction at the effectiveness of the orange blouse he had Candace wear. He informed Margot that he was going to be wearing that color, knowing that Margot was going to pass that information right along to Detective Brown, making it easier to mistake the high heel wearing, turban head covered Candace as Tekk. Excuse me, I think you're mistaking me for someone else, Candace said. Tekk, nobody's fooled by this silly ass costume. Detective Brown ripped Candace's shirt open, exposing her bare, busty breasts to the world. Oh my God, Candace shouted. Oh my God, I don't believe you just did that. I'm suing. I'm going to sue your ass. Tekk stood up and walked out as gay as he could, switching his hips beneath his black leggings. He even whistled a little Dixie. He got on the subway as is, not going to risk being late for Gwen's show to change his clothes. 7:04 p.m., the same night. By the time Tekk got to 42nd Street, he pretty much gave up on trying to play the she role. It had to have been a sight to see the diesel warrior stepping down the street like a cross-dressed football player. You see that? Tekk could hear as one of the duo of dudes asked the other. That's a nigga, he advised his friend. Tekk didn't care that they knew he was a man, just as long as they couldn't make him out to be a wanted man. He kept right on stepping into the Laugh Up a Lung comedy lounge and through the front door. What can I get for you? Bartender asked as Tekk took a seat at the bar. Oh, let me get a ginger ale, bro, he said, placing his heavy forearm on the counter. One ginger ale coming up. The venue was about halfway full and halfway alive. A skinny, four-eyed white dude was hosting. Before Tekk could read any more into the scene, his cell phone rang. Incoming. Candace. Peace, he answered with his mellow, deep voice. You're something else, you know that? I'll see you soon. I just got to do something real quick, was the only sort of explanation that he offered. Saying nothing further, he hung up the phone. How was your day? The bartender asked as he returned with Tekk's drink. Fine, Tekk said, employing too much bass in his voice. He cleared his throat. Fine, he said a little lighter. The bartender extended a smile and a hand. Larry, he introduced himself. Tekk wanted nothing more than for him to stop speaking to him. The more he stretched the conversation out, the more Tekk had to play the role of a bitch. Rebecca, Tekk said, pulling a grin up, then dropping it, as if it were too heavy before turning around on his stool. Next, coming to the stage, we have a young lady out of Harlem, New York. She's new to the spoken word game, so I want y'all to give her a nice warm welcome. Give it up for Gwen Sessoms. Pride ran through Tekk like his music as he watched the young lady with his face step to the stage. My baby is so beautiful, he fathomed, and strong. Simply seeing her courage in his godly endeavor brought a tremendous healing to his heart, resonated by the glow of joy and curiosity on his face, eager as to how she was going to hit him this time. At no point of these hours are you ever too far removed from consciousness. The effect that it takes on your body is manifest. It's constant. I turn and twist, somehow keeping confidence and Allah and his design and where I fit into it. I would be questioned about my endeavors during these hours. Midnight, 1 in the morning. The faithful is charged with building while the common man is yawning, snoring, feet up and shoes off. But these boots stay strapped up, sometimes days at a time. When you experience like that, literally, then you can understand the basis of my life in rhyme. At 2 a.m., I make salah, to which I take another step towards befriending Allah. Verily, the coming of the dawn can't be too far. It's somewhere between the stars and wherever it is you are. And as complex or as simple as it all may be, the dynamics of the mission change after the hours of 3. 'Cause now, it's just cold. The sun is but a distant rumor, a has-been, a mystery that couldn't prove itself truer any sooner. But God is merciful. In 15 minutes, he'll send those birds. They'll sing the faith. Damn, it's almost dawn, and I only wrote 1 page. I must be a slave to subject myself to such conditions, but I am compelled, and I am tough. Walking on the hills of frozen feet in the AM is rough, but I made it, and you should see the torment, realizing that I took their hardest punch. So I stand here with the muscles I brought from yesterday, like what? The enemies of God would die 1,000 deaths, yet his servants would die but once. Upon speaking her last words, there was a stark silence that fell upon the crowd. Tekk was amazed, familiar with the innermost intricacies of his daughter's thoughts. Thank you, Gwen said into the microphone, which seemed to superimpose her words over the hush. Tekk lowered his head and began clapping. Then another set of applause came forth, and another. Tekk turned around in his own maze of thought. Damn, She bombed, the bartender said, shaking his head and wiping up a spill on the counter. Tekk employed more bass than his even normal tone. Yo, man, shut the fuck up before I come over there and crack your fucking forehead. He stood up, pulling out his clip-on earrings from his ear and scooted his purse aside. Say another word, he dared the startled, heart attack pendant gentleman. 11:42 p.m., the same night. Candace leaned back and grabbed the frame of the chair she was sitting on in apprehension. What you doing? She asked. Tekk kept approaching. It's me, he said, entering her dorm room. Candace's face turned from mildly frightened to mildly amused. He looked like a drag queen that had one of his roughest days of life. What the hell? Shh, Tekk said, putting his finger before his lips and shutting the door. Yo, Tekk, you really be on some other shit. He laughed as he got out of those damn high heels. So that's the plan, huh? Candace asked. Sue the police department for sexual harassment? Tekk gave her a head nod and flopped atop the bed and peeled off his leggings. We can get up to $1 million for that shit. We got it on video too. He began preparing the room so he could smoke a blunt, stuffing a towel in the groove between the door. The plastic bag in his hands was to cover the smoke detector. So, out of that $1 million, how much am I gonna get? Candace asked. Half, he said, sure of it. Whatever it brings in, you take half. Let me take the rest so I could release my final album the right way and give a little something to the girls. Candace smiled, but in no time, her face turned. Well, look, she said. I want to make you a proposition. Tekk's nerves stood on edge, having no clue what she was about to ask. Okay. A sparked light out of the window caught both of their attention. It was from the hall director's room, which meant that Tekk was going to have to lower the bass in his voice, and smoking in the room was way too risky now. What's the proposition? He asked as he shut the curtains. Candace commenced playing music from a computer to drown out the sounds coming from the room. I want to buy your services, she said, strangely taking jabs at her point. Okay, Tekk said flatly, with a confused look on his face. I want to offer you $10,000 to have sex with me. He smiled wide, visibly flattered. The penis in his pants jumped as if Candace had said something to it directly. Okay, he said in a way which Candace couldn't tell if he were accepting or simply acknowledging her. I'm a virgin, you know. A word? Tekk asked, glad her words moved him past being stuck on stupid. Yes, her voice cracked. I ain't never been with no nigga like that. So what's up? She asked with that bold and beauty of an NYC shorty who wasn't about playing too many games. The beast in him wanted to bend her over at once. In his mannerisms, he tried to find some sort of way to say yes without saying yes. He shrugged his shoulders. I'm okay with it. She smiled. He smiled. They smiled together at each other. So, her boldness gave way to giggles. Do you have to wait till I pay you to give me your services? She asked. Tekk laughed, revealing his handsome white teeth, trying to be on his Denzel shit until he realized that the itching coming from his back was his bra strap. All right, he said, peeling off the last of his gay garments. Let me go smoke real quick, then we gonna see what it look like, he informed her. 16 minutes later. Tekk smashed his reconfigured vanilla Dutch on the tree trunk and released the smoke he took in. Tekk's instincts worked like an animal as his eyes locked under some spot where his ears heard leaves and sticks crumbling. He was just barely able to make out a camouflage jumpsuit stalking something of the unknown. Tekk's initial instinct was to be happy that the crazy-looking old man wasn't stalking his ass and to mind his business. But then, His parental instincts kicked in, realizing the man could be looking to hurt someone's child. Yo, what you doing? Tekk asked the creep. I'm hunting raccoons, the man informed him. Hunting raccoons, nigga? Tekk asked, now able to see the rifle in the man's hand. Yes. Them raccoons ain't been fucking with you, Tekk said. Just leave me alone, will ya? Tekk decided to do just that, as he had more important business to tend to. He left, departing along the walking path he was on, back to the real action of the night. 4 minutes later, Tekk walked into the near-empty residence hall like a man on a mission, knowing that Candace hadn't had anything like he was about to give her, made his confidence and dick grow. The pink boy shorts that she had slipped into took the final bit of reserve he had. He grabbed her by the arm. Take these off, he demanded rather roughly, looking at her like she was something to eat. She was warm for him, her body sweet and welcoming. She purred like a pussycat, saying nothing but following his command and taking off her shorts. Tekk pushed her on the bed and buried his mouth in her crotch. She squeezed her plump legs together in pleasure. She grabbed his head. He pulled her all over the bed with his strong arms and pushed her clitoris all over his mouth with his freaky tongue. Before Candace could catch her breath, Tekk was mounting her, wielding his dick like a sword carried by a six-pack of abs. His chest and back soaked with the sweat of the first round of his labor. In traditional Tekk fashion, he mellowed out before he overdid it. Candace had been virtually on the edge of running from him, looking at the length of his love, as he'd had her in a position where she was going to get every inch of it. With her right leg still on his shoulder, Tekk aligned the head of his penis with her soft flowing vagina. He twirled around in her walls like a gynecologist, completely and effectively changing the entire pace and feel of the experience. As if he suddenly gained a sweet affection for her virginity, Tekk took a series of everlasting strokes. Candace sunk her nails into the muscles of his triceps, with nothing else left to give him. No more private love juice, no more sexy oohs or ahs. She grabbed the machine of a man from the back of his neck and pulled him over to her, giving him her tears. In his own way, Tekk tried showing her some empathy, yet his body remained in thrust mode, growing climactically excited with the various emotions. In a tight bear hug, Candace rubbed the last of her orgasm on him as he began to shoot the first of his orgasm in her. More of her crying resulted in more of his coming. They both released hard, after which Candace held him as close as she could while she finished pouring out her emotions. The next week, Tekk was walking down Boston Road in the Bronx, as usual, toting his life bag, up-tempo, minding his business, when a cramp in his leg made the allurement of the bench at the bus stop irresistible. He took a seat and massaged his thigh. You ever play any ball? Tekk looked up to see an overweight, dark-skinned brother tossing a basketball to him. Tekk noticed his stomach secreting from beneath his small t-shirt as he persisted in tossing the ball. Nah, man, Tekk said, scooting over a bit to create space for him if he chose to sit. Yeah, used to play some ball, the guy almost insisted. Never the one for bullshit. Tekk gave a no-nonsense stare. Brother, I told you I never played ball. The moment he said the words, Tekk realized how grossly untrue that was. He played basketball virtually his entire childhood. He'd even been to summer basketball camps. Now that he thought about it. You know Brian Grant? You remember Brian Grant? He played with the Trailblazers? The man asked. He just couldn't leave that weed alone. His point of conversation drove at Tekk like the point of a knife. He looked over at the brother, checking to see if there was any indication that God had sent him as a messenger, only perceiving a big, fat, black, silly-looking nigga. Tekk began to ready his fist for contact. But Jesus is the way, the man said out of nowhere. Tekk lowered his level of potential explosiveness, writing the man off simply as a Jesus freak whose random talking points just coincidentally hit close to home. Yeah, brother, Jesus is the way, Tekk said, not looking to rub theological elbows with the lightweight. He picked up his things and moved on. A few paces along, Tekk turned around and saw the guy talking to himself in front of the pizza shop. In all the strangeness of the day, Tekk turned to find his boy Trevor from Brooklyn in his face. "Oh snap, Trev, what up?" He stepped back, almost relieved to see Tekk. "Oh shit, Big Tekk, what's good?" Trevor asked, looking Tekk in the chest and opposed the eyes. "Yo, son." Trev gave a sharp look around both his shoulders with heavy suspicion. "I just killed this bitch." There was no mistaking his words, and certainly no lying in his eyes. There was blood on his hands. Suddenly, he dropped to a knee in a faint sorrow. Tekk reached out and pulled him up quickly, as to dissuade self-destruction or self-incrimination. "What happened, fam?" he asked. "Yo, Tekk," Trevor said, grabbing him by the collar of his shirt. "Don't play with me, son. I know you know God. Tell him not to send me to hell for this." Tekk giggled, even despite the circumstances. "I can't tell God shit, brother." He straightened the record. "What, you just did that shit just now?" "Yeah, man," Trevor confirmed. "I just smashed this bitch over the head with a frying pan." "And she died?" Tekk asked in a sneaky prison manufactured way of sneaking words without moving his lips. "Yeah, she dead. I just kept hitting that bitch, son. I blacked out." Tekk was taken aback hearing the words. He immediately perceived everything about Trevor differently. This was as if he was a man standing in an all-consuming fire. "Tekk, ask God not to send me to hell, yo," Trevor pleaded yet again. "Brother, I can kindly ask him on your behalf if that's what you want, but Allah just don't do what I tell him to do. If that was the case, I'd be sitting on a farm in Pennsylvania with my kids, smoking and reading the Quran. You have to give God a reason to bless you, bro. What can I do? Right now, what can I do?" he asked the now chuckling Tekk. "What the fuck?" Trevor said. "You laughing and I just killed my—" "Shh, nigga," Tekk commanded, grinning his face as if microphones or police were around. "Listen, you gonna be all right. We serve a forgiving God. We'll work something out," Tekk said as he wrote down his new phone number for him. "Just call me later." 11:21 a.m. the same day. 11, Tekk growled, leaning into Dwayne as if to spot him. Come on. 12. Dwayne let go of the bar and gave a confident flex and stretch of his upper body. "Yeah, boy, it's coming in," Tekk said, proud of the product of his training. "Yeah, my arm's good now," Dwayne said, now flexing his bicep and in doing so, displaying a new growth of his upper tricep. "Now I want to hit my chest. I want my chest to be crazy." "Then you got to work your back," Tekk said as he prepared to rip the bar himself, only needing to stretch his arms to his furthest extent to grip the long, narrow bar. He pulled himself from the start position until his chest was touching the bar. He rolled his hands swiftly from the pull to push position and went into a dip movement, becoming airborne. He could see the borough of Queens from a better perspective from up here. He let his arms keep him up. After a moment, in a locked-out position, his arms lowered him back down. "Yo, how I do them shits?" Dwayne asked, sweating profusely and guzzling a few sips of water. "You gotta master your regular pull-ups first," Tekk said, sucking in air like a human tank. "One step at a time, bro," he added, now pointing to the bar, as if advising Dwayne that it was his turn to get some. 10:43 p.m., the same night. Tekk had his body stashed in someone's unlocked, unused car garage like some type of wild animal trying to hide from human eyes. He was seated atop a cylinder block in a corner behind some buckets of paint. The skin of his palms was badly torn, as he had used a new grip on his pull-ups earlier, and he didn't use any lifting gloves. Consequently, he was holding his pen like some sort of lifeline, clinging to it with just the tip of his fingers, yet inflexible in his work to be done. His phone rang for the 6th time in the past 2 minutes. Candace again. Once again, Tekk let the call go straight to voicemail, as he could hear people outside, and he couldn't afford the risk being heard inside.
It was getting cold outside. Margot's place was off limits. Hollis's boyfriend moved in with her after Karan was born, which reduced the amount of time that Tekk could spend there. Gwen was currently in Connecticut for a poetry reading event. This dark, dusty, cluttered, constricted space was the best option for Tekk tonight. Another phone call came vibrating in. He decided to answer this time, since the only thing he could hear on the other side of the door for the past few minutes was someone dropping garbage in the can outside next to the yard. "Hello, Tekk?" Stephanie asked. "Hey, what's up? Are you okay?" Tekk smiled unconsciously, happy to know that someone in the wide world was thinking about him. "Yeah, I'm good. Where are you?" he asked. "I'm still in Europe. I'm staying." Tekk didn't bother asking. He just smiled and let Stephanie feel it through the phone. "Did you hear me?" she asked. "Yeah. I smoked weed for the first time, too." Tekk did a little more smiling and laughing. "It's so fantastic," she added. "Yeah, I know," Tekk said, pulling out the half a blunt he had in his jean jacket chest pocket just to make sure it was still there. "So what are you going to do, Tekk? What's your plan?" Quick on the draw, as his mission course was simple now, Tekk said, "I'm going to release one more album, and then I'm stepping away from the game for good. I'm going to go sit my ass down somewhere and get old." "Well, I may be able to help you out with that," Stephanie said with a hint of optimism in her voice. "Me and Olay, that's my friend. We were talking the other night, and we would like to help you out." A brief disconnect in Stephanie's words let Tekk know that he had a call coming in on the other line. He looked into his display screen. Call waiting. Candace. "Hold on. I got a call on the other line." He pressed the green talk button. "Yo." "Tekk, I'm pregnant," Candace said. 1 hour later. Through the darkness of the night and the moment, Tekk could hear Lioness's latest single blasting from a car somewhere outside. At this moment, hearing her music served as a stark reminder of how far the dread had drifted from mainstream. The dead weight of the cold steel resting against his knee. Although he clutched a heavy .38 caliber pistol at the trigger, he tried somehow to ignore its deadly presence. God was still with him. Tekk could feel God's presence towering over him, watching his every move while reading the secrets of his heart. The angels assigned to recording his every deed. Tekk's awareness of God almost introduced a certain humor to the situation. Since God could deduct Tekk's very thoughts, it was obvious that he wasn't going to shoot himself. So why not put the gun away and get back on my job? Tekk asked himself. The answer was because he wasn't ready. Now crying, Tekk raised his heavy Smith & Wesson to his temple and massaged the side of his head with the blunt barrel. The discharge of a single bullet could end it all. The lonely nights, the hot days, the pain, the ridicule, the struggle, just a single bullet. But with hellfire waiting for such a sin, what would Tekk's defense before God be? I can't feel you on this one, no, Pops, Tekk said aloud to the Lord, still not understanding the grandeur of life giving him another child while he was facing these odds at this age. Tekk had perceived himself as having one foot in the grave, but even if that weren't the case, he was petrified of having to deal with another pregnant woman, a 19-year-old at that. I was just trying to enjoy a little something, Dad, not going for the long ride. Dang, Tekk said. I'm not trying to have another child. Another child?
Come on, Pops. Come on, God. He said, believing in his heart that he'd never strayed from his path, although something deep inside him understood that he could have done all that he did while using a condom. Therefore, he found a way to trust the knowledge of the Quran and its instructions that there's no good but it's from God. And the bad is God letting us feel a portion of the deeds of our own hands. All right, Pops, he said. Well, at least don't let this bitch go crazy during the pregnancy. I'll do what I gotta do. I don't see how I'm gonna raise a child when I'm on the run and broke, but I'll try to do what I could do, Pops. Tekk put his gun away and got his things together to make an inconspicuous exit from the garage, which had become his new base. 55 minutes later. There was a sharp difference between the man walking down the street and a dapper, glossy-skinned specimen of days past. Tekk's face was scuffy. His strut was almost menacing, as if looking for a fight. He arrived at his destination. They met at the Kentucky Fried Chicken on Nostrand Avenue in BK. This was the first time Tekk had ever seen hair covering Trevor's trademark bald head. Trev had on a black hoodie and black True Religion jeans. Cops been at my job, my mom's crib. I ain't going to jail. They run up on me, they gonna have to shoot it out, he said, looking at Tekk. Where you been staying? Tekk asked. At this bitch crib in Crown Heights, Trevor said. Tekk him, taking another bite from his lamb gyro. You know what the worst part about this whole shit is for me? Trevor asked. I don't feel nothing, he said. I mean, I miss her and shit, but it's not like nothing crazy, you know? Tekk took note of the lawlessness of his brother's thought pattern. He was the perfect person for what Tekk had in mind. Yeah, I know what you're saying, he answered, thanking God in his inner sanctum that he really couldn't relate. Brother, you need to start praying 5 times a day, every day, Tekk threw out there with no sugarcoat. 5 times a day? Yeah, Tekk confirmed. And we have to establish a regular dollar amount that you could give to charity on a weekly basis. And God is going to let me into heaven based off this? Trevor asked, his lips covered in chicken grease, his face covered in doubt. Well, it's a part of a bigger plan, brother, but you have some basic requirements that you have to fulfill with your days under the sun. Noticing something unusual in his neck, Tekk reached up and examined the area around his throat. Feeling the lump brought a fright to his chest that could have stopped his heart. All those years of smoking finally got me. He touched around the dime-sized bulge and immediately retracted the desire to hasten his days of life. You all right? Trevor asked. Huh? Yeah, Tekk said, pulling himself back to the world. He reached beside him and took out the dreadlock wig in his bag. Put this on, bro, he said to Trevor as he handed him his new hair. Yo, Tekk, what in the world does this have to do with getting me right with God? The only explanation Tekk offered was, it takes patience to walk with Allah, brother. He began gathering his things. Speaking of God, Trevor asked as he began doing the same, what's up with that Christian rapper dissing you? What? Tekk asked, completely taken aback. Oh, you ain't know? Trev asked, looking at Tekk, almost amazed at the fighting energy growing in him. That boy, what's his name? He asked, snapping his fingers in thought. He did the joint with Lena Leslie for the Men in Black 3 soundtrack. Yeah, Tekk said in familiarity. What's that nigga name? Christopher Christ? He spit out. Right, Trevor agreed. Christopher Christ. That nigga said some slick shit about you in his new song, son. I'm surprised you ain't here yet. Some shit like, you can't be a prophet if you don't know the pen is mightier than the sword. A confused architect can't build a house for the Lord. Tekk broke out in a sweat, starting with his hands, then his back. The precipitation coming from his scalp was mostly soaked up by his hair, but it eventually made its way to his forehead and face. He clenched his jaw. Trevor could sense the dread About to turn colors. You all right, son? 11:11 p.m. the same night. The light rain falling seemed to dictate the mood of the city tonight. Tekk continued mumbling vicious rhymes to himself as the windshield on Gwen's car began to fog. His plan was to release a 20-track a cappella album under an undetermined alias, an album so jam-packed with tight lyrics that the listener wouldn't miss the music. And now, with this Christopher Christ situation on the table, Tekk now had rhyme and even more reason. He planned on absolutely roasting Christopher Christ lyrically. The album would also include a dedicated track to his late son, a hard poetic ballad featuring his daughter Gwen. Gwen, too, was babbling under her breath. There was no doubt that she had the talent and drive of her dad, beginning to master her craft at a rapid pace, needing to write less and able to hold more with her mind. She had her seat pushed all the way back, and the steering wheel was inclined. She reached into her North Face book bag behind her and took out a digital voice recorder from the small pocket. Tekk was surprised and delighted to see that Gwen invested in something other than her wardrobe for a change. "I'll be right back," she informed him through his thoughts. "All right, be careful out there." "All right," Gwen said, covering herself with a special garment and stepping off. Knowing his daughter and taking notes of her developing creative process, Tekk figured she was probably going to smoke some sour before trekking through the streets in search of Allah and what he wanted to say. He got back to piecing together the puzzle of his next song as he watched his girl disappear into the darkness of an alley across the street. 20 minutes later. Watching Gwen strut back out of the alley was a sight for sore eyes. Tekk decided then and there that he needed to get her a can of mace and a pocket knife. Sipping from a bottle of water, he almost choked watching the black Crown Victoria, ablaze with sirens, come to a screeching halt before the alley. A NYPD police cruiser did the same. Officer upon officer raced into the dark cloud between the buildings, re-emerging with a handcuffed middle-aged man wearing a tan trench coat. What in the world? Tekk wondered as Gwen got back to the car. "Did you see that guy in the alley?" he asked as she took a seat. "Yeah, I walked right past him," she said, checking out the police-lit, illuminated scene in amazement. "Wow," she said, as if seeing a blessing in her smooth passage. "I wonder what they bagging him for." Tekk zoned out for a moment, using his thumb on his right hand to touch every other finger while silently saying shukran, or thank you, in Arabic, 28 times, each finger 7 times. A supplemental prayer that he developed with his new mobile life. The police arrested their suspect and vanished quickly without a trace. After thanking the Lord for sparing his girl the wrath of a criminal, Tekk was somehow reminded of what time it was. "All right, baby, you ready to get some Quran in?" "Yes, sir," she agreed enthusiastically. "You want to stay here or you want me to drive somewhere else?" "Nah, we good here," he said, positive. "Whose turn is it to read?" "I read last time, so it's on you," Gwen said, curling her legs into her body and pulling out a candy bar seemingly from nowhere. In some effort of machismo, Tekk stopped himself from smiling as brightly as he wanted to at the sheer presence of such a blessed child. He noticed his girl was paying closer and closer attention to the readings. She was growing more eager in the Holy Spirit, and her father was feeding her. So they both proceeded until, when they were in the boat, he scuttled it. Moses said, "Hast thou scuttled it in order to drown those in it? Truly a strange thing hast thou done." He answered, "Did I not tell thee that thou canst have patience with me?" Moses said, "Rebuke me not for forgetting, nor grieve me by raising difficulties in my case." Then they proceeded until, when they met a young man, he slew him. Moses said, Hast thou slain an innocent person who has slain none? Truly a foul thing hast thou done. He answered, Did I not tell thee that thou canst have patience with me? Moses said, If ever I ask thee about anything after this, keep me not in thy company. Then they proceeded until, when they came into the inhabitants of a town, they asked for food, but they refused them hospitality. They found their wall on a point of falling down, but he set it up straight. Moses said, If thou hadst wished, surely thou could have extracted some recompense for it. He answered, This is the pardon between you and me. Now I will tell thee the interpretation of those things of which thou wast unable to hold patient. As for the boat, it belonged to a certain man in dire want. They plied on the water, but I wished to render it inserviceable, for there was after them a certain king who seized on every boat by force. As for the youth, his parents was people of faith, and we feared that he would grieve them by obstinate rebellion and ingratitude to God and man. So we desired that their Lord would give them in exchange a son better in purity and conduct and closer in affection. As for the wall, it belonged to two youths, orphans, in the town. There was beneath it a buried treasure to which they were entitled. Their fathers had been righteous men, so thy Lord desired that they should attain their age of full strength and get out their treasure, a mercy and favor from thy Lord. I did it not out of my own account. Such was the interpretation of the things of which thou wast unable to hold patience. Tekk looked over to Gwen, almost beaming with brightness. You got that? He asked. Yeah, that was ill, she said, beaming too. Almost glowing with knowledge and understanding. How do I convert? She asked. What? Yeah, I'm ready, she said with a bright, beautiful face. Tekk checked quickly to make sure that there was no shakiness in her eyes. He looked straight as if to see if there are any more signs that Allah wanted to give him. But Tekk understood that God was the swiftest in planning. Therefore, it wasn't consistent with God to lay this path out so smoothly, only to shake things up at the end. The work was already done. The child was already a believer and saved. The Lord was already with her. Tekk spoke. Say, I bear witness that there is no God but God, the one God. She repeated, and Muhammad is one of his messengers. Gwen repeated, say that Jesus is one of his messengers. She did. Moses is one of his messengers. She repeated. Tekk shook his head at his girl, proud, strong with pride. There you go. Now you're in. You got a spot in heaven. Now you just got to build it up, inshallah, and don't lose it. 4 hours later. As the white thread of dawn appeared distinct from the night, Tekk's eyes opened to a new day. He turned his head to the left, keeping as quiet as possible while reading the physicality of his daughter. Her facial features, sharp and refined. She was an amazing beauty. He raised his big body and leaned over to kiss her on the forehead. Gwen smiled before opening her eyes. What's up, Daddy? She asked, grinning. Tekk didn't bother answering. He just ran his fingers through her curly brown hair. She shut her eyes again, bathing in the moment. I gotta be to work soon, she said. I know, Tekk said. You gotta train people today? Nah, I'm gonna take today for myself. Get a little Tekk time in. The dread joke. Good, you need it. She smiled again before sprawling her upper body and stretching out. My papa is getting old. 8:03 a.m. the same day. With some extra cash in his pocket, Tekk decided to rent out a room at a cheap motel. Upon entering, he let his things fall wherever they may and passed out on the bed for hours. Upon coming back to consciousness, the first thing he did was check to see if the foreign lump on his throat was still there. Confirming that it was, he also noted that it seemed to be getting smaller and becoming less of an annoyance. He eagerly asked God to handle it and moved on. He cut on the television and turned to the news. Police finally caught up with wanted sexual predator Peter Manicock late last night in New York. Officers found Manicock in an alley on Prince Street in Manhattan. Tekk's senses heightened with attentiveness. Prince Street was where he and Gwen were parked that night. This was the guy they seen get arrested. Manicock was wanted for sexually assaulting over a dozen girls in Lower Manhattan, stalking them at night and luring them into alleys to molest them. Police took Manicock into custody last night after trailing him for a few blocks. They finally caught up with him on Prince Street as he stalked his next victim. Tekk's heart jumped with a shock of familiarity. When they asked him why he didn't attempt to molest the girl in the alley before police rushed in, Manicock stated that he wanted to, but the huge guy walking with her changed his plans. Police found that statement rather odd since no man was near Manicock when he got arrested. Today he's being held. Tekk looked up at the heavens in astonishment. God just never seemed to stop hooking him up, he thought, thankful. Then he got up and went into the bathroom to wash himself for a prayer. 11:23 a.m., the same day. Tekk got a call from Attorney Blake while he was twisting his hair. Hello? He picked up his phone with his dry hand and clutched it between his head and shoulders. Hey, good morning, Jason, Attorney Blake greeted, then cut straight to the chase. The police department want to settle a case out of court for $400,000. Bet, let's do it, Tekk said, finishing with the dread he was working on and stuffing it beneath the confines of the scrunchie holding his other manicured locks. Okay, so have Candace come down here. She needs to sign some papers, and we'll have the first installment of the money in approximately 1 month. Sounds good, Tekk said. She'll be there. 1 hour later. After a shower and another prayer, Tekk had taken to a quest in hip-hop music. Gwen let him hold her iPod, and he used the money he got from Maryland last Wednesday to buy a speaker depot. An old Jay-Z track was jamming as Tekk moved around organizing and cleaning up his life. He turned his duffel bag upside down onto the bed. Shirts, socks, and stores of food fell out. He emptied his plastic bag of cosmetics from one of the side pockets and took inventory. He needed another stick of deodorant. He was good with toothpaste, peroxide, and shampoo. He also took note to get some more lotion the next time he got paid. Tekk lubricated the blades of his electric trimmers while listening to Drake. He separated his dirty whites from his dirty colors while rhyming word for word with Rakim. He laced his prayer mat with scented oil over Snoop Dogg. Tekk pulled out his plastic bag of woman clothes and his Rebecca accessories with the intent of throwing them away. But just as he went to toss the bag, he was struck with a better idea. The final aspect of his cleanup mission was his book of business. A black folder containing the now useless NYCMC business checks and a master roster of all the albums, mixtapes, and shows that boasted the company name. Tekk opened the book from the back cover. Terminal Velocity, 10,358 albums. The New Testament, 33,290. The Dread, 500,029. The Best of NYCMC, 204,473. The Holy Spirit mixtape, blank. Tekk located a pen among the many on his person and wrote 3,493 and a blank with the date next to it. Then he wrote The Voices in My Head a cappella mixtape and scribed another blank, after which he thrived in his thoughts of the mathematical possibilities. 1 hour later. Tekk tightened up everything his eyes could see. His locks looked good and draped over his shoulders. His skin was moisturized. He flossed and gargled, His tattoo covered upper body was covered with a royal blue and white chest stripe polo shirt. His cargo shorts, his white ankle-length tube socks. He was so fresh and so clean. Looking and smelling as good as he could, Tekk spread his prayer mat across the floor and the space between the bed and window. He stood over his mat in silence. The lights and television were off. The window cracked slightly, allowing the chill of the season a brief passageway. Tekk just planned on speaking to God, not making a formal prayer. He began simply by saying nothing. He allowed the sundry blessings from the Lord to flash across his head, mindful, thankful, and grateful. He took a series of deep breaths. Father, I have listened, I have read, I have bowed down with those who have bowed down. I have given to the poor, I have educated the people in your laws. I have practiced my craft under duress that would drive most men to suicide. Through his monologue, Tekk could hear a girl moaning of sexual pleasure in the next room. The bed frame pounded against Tekk's wall. Therefore, Tekk crawled deeper into his mind, knowing that he needed to be a level deeper past the mundane, a level of unbreakable communication with the Lord. Allah, please hear my case in this matter. If it be for me to spend the rest of my days behind prison walls, then so be it. If it be that my days under the sun are coming to an end, then so be it. But Pops, I still have yet to give my fair share of fatherhood. I have a grievance in my heart in that regard, Father. I have children who need me. They never got the chance to practice your laws under my guidance. Why make me such a good teacher and not let me get to instruct my most important students, the only students that I have real authority to teach? And how can I expect the people to believe in me, that I'm your sincere and authentic messenger, if they perceive me as being a failure, Father? 11:42 a.m. the next day. Floating on the Metro North, feeling more like a hot MC than a homeless 30-something, Tekk was jotting down plans in his book of rhymes. The 20 tracks for his next albums, The Voices in My Head, were complete. Within 2 weeks, he would have the money he needed to go into the studio and lay the vocals. And since he was only doing vocals, he needed minimal studio time, and the mix and mastering process would be a breeze. Tekk sat back and let his eyes take in all the greenery that came along with getting out of NYC. He just relaxed, enjoying his time on the earth. 53 minutes later. Tekk spoke at her back since she seemed to be too busy to pay full attention. All right, so Attorney Blake said they want to settle out of court for $400,000. So we're going to take it. So out of that, you're going to get $2. $2? Candace asked with a stink look on her face. What, that's not good enough for you? Tekk asked with his facetious intent. Yet judging by Candace's demeanor, the question may have been needed. She pulled up the sleeves on her sweater and folded her arms in a display of feminine strength. It was Tekk's turn to give a stink face. Candace posted herself against the door of the closet. Why don't you let me put some extra money away for the baby? I don't know about that, Candace. The baby don't have nothing to do with the money right now. There are things more, he tried to find a word other than important, more critical that we need to attend to right now. Candace snapped. Well, you're not expecting to get that extra $10,000 from me, right? 2 hours later. Tekk only had one client for the day. As soon as he got back to the city and off the train, she called out sick. He was walking again, trekking across the planet with everything he owned slung from his shoulder, looking for a place to chill, looking for a place to smoke, looking out for what God wanted him to see. As he crossed over 204th Street, he noticed a huge banner hanging from one of the park's gates. Annual Uptown Calisthenics Classic. Tekk walked inside. A sizable crowd was sprawled about. He checked out the lean Dominican brother sweating out reps on the monkey bars as the spectators counted up for him. 13, 14. Tekk's mind desired to put his body into action, so he walked over to the scores table. Yo, how I get in? Sign in here. The broad, monstrous voice brother instructed, pointing to a piece of paper taped to the table that he was sitting behind. You can go next. Dealing with Candace earlier was a grim reminder of Tekk's prior negative experiences with his baby mamas. He always seemed to be on the ass end of any paternal decisions, regardless of how much sense it made. What the mother desired, the mother got. And the woman grew so aggressive that he would have to fight to show his love, which compromised the nature of his sweet and sour touch. But tenderness was the furthest thing from the will of the dread at this moment. His intent was to conjure up all the strength in his 190-pound body and let it come out raging on the pull-up bar. 21, 22. The crowd counted out the final muscle-ups of the current contestant. Tekk stashed his duffel bag near one of the benches, walked over to the judge, and handed him his entry sheet. All right, man, this is the muscle-up competition. First place is at 25 reps right now, the fellow dread advised Tekk. Let me see what you got. A deep breath and Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, Tekk declared in the privacy of his mind before beginning. 1, 2, 3. He moved past the first few reps with ease. He imagined his daughter sitting in the crowd, watching him. He used that and momentum to get through 10. Then he envisioned his son watching him. That took him past 16. Junior's life hanging in the balance and Tekk only needing to display more strength to keep his son alive got him past 20. Every muscle in his upper body was begging him to cut it out. His arms were fully raging. He took a slight rest at the top position on the bar, then went down again and again. 22, 23. The crowd and judge counted. Tekk pulled his chest to the bar, but was unable to turn to push himself up. Hanging now only by his will and the strength in his hands and forearms. Bismillah, he growled, pulling up again and successfully turning to the dip position. 27, 28, 29. He stopped there, more so as to not faint due to muscle failure. Okay now, okay, the judge said into the cordless mic as he walked over to Tekk, who was walking from everyone else. And the winner is, he said, shoving the microphone in Tekk's face as if asking him to identify himself. Barely able to raise his arms, Tekk waved it off, walking away with his swollen back and pumped up biceps, not giving a damn what they thought his name was. They would only remember his work. 9:06 p.m. the same night. So y'all two living out here on some hippie shit, huh? Tekk asked, passing a blunt that he just rolled and sparked to Stephanie. Stephanie took the Dutch with a certain level of pride, happy to finally be able to vibe on this level with the dread. She took a deep pull before responding. I have my photography business set up out here. Olay has a job at the pub. We're living a simple life. Tekk asked, Oleg? What the fuck kind of name is that? What the fuck kind of weed is this? Stephanie asked, looking at the blunt strange. What you mean? It's regular ass weed. Oh, they only got the really good stuff out here. Listen to you, Tekk said, snatching the Mary Jane back, almost offended. They only got the good stuff out here. He mocked. So you gave up on your lucrative, hard-earning career as a nurse to move to Europe on a limb and live a simple life? He intended on making her folly clear to her with the question. But after hearing the words out loud, he figured, I can dig it, he said, handing Stephanie the blunt again. I got the title for my next album, he informed her. The Voices in My Head. Stephanie laughed, truly amazed. The voices in my head, huh? Tekk went on to explain. It was just a lot of hassle for me to get into the studio and pay producers, so I said, fuck it. Let me do that shit with no beats, hammer my listeners with lyrics so hard that they don't even miss the beat. Tekk turned and looked her in the eyes. I hate to ask you this, but I need another favor, if you don't mind. What's up? Stephanie asked. I need you to register my new record company in your name. I'm going to distribute my next album primarily on the internet so I can get out there without putting myself out there. I need to link everything to a PayPal so I can collect the money, and I need the PayPal to link to a business. You put me on that whole Margot shit, so I know I can trust you. He noticed her looking anywhere but in his face right now, knowing no other way to handle his compliment. If you can help me with this, I'll make it worth your while financially. You don't have to do anything for me financially, Tekk. I just want to see you happy. I'll do it, she said. Tekk could read nothing of her expression or lack thereof. So have you seen Margot since? She asked, freeing him of the burden of having to respond to such affection and sincerity. Nah, Tekk said, ashing a blunt. But I'ma see that nigga, though. I got something for his ass. Stephanie hemmed plainly, as if she didn't want to hear Tekk's plan for fear of becoming an accessory. Oh, you want a house? She asked out of nowhere. What? Tekk demanded, shocked. My parents finally put the deed to the house in Colorado in my name, she informed him. Trouble is, I live in another country now, she joked. The pressure that had been sitting on Tekk's shoulders for years seemed to be drastically relieved. This, he thought, is how God is going to work it all out for him. Release the album, then move my black ass halfway across the country. Bam. 1 week later. Dressed as Rebecca, Tekk got off the B train at 34th Street and walked over to 7th Avenue. He could see his daughter standing on the corner a few feet away, apparently looking for him. What's up? He asked as he reached him. Gwen turned around astonished. Daddy, what? She gave up her words to head shaking, not even bothering to finish. I gotta do what I gotta do, baby, he explained. He turned to Hollis, who was equally as stunned to see her roughneck dad dressed in drag. Just respect it till you understand. Y'all know me. With no words either, Hollis simply took the flyers that Rebecca handed her. Here, he said, handing Hollis a couple of stacks before doing the same for Gwen. Hollis read the flyer. The most wanted, architect. The voices in my head. Highly anticipated underground album release concert. $15 a ticket and CD. November 14th, 2012. For more info and free architect music, visit www.warnerbooksent.com. Daddy, I don't know about this. This shit is kind of out there, Hollis said, looking at the flyer doubtfully. Steph got it set up, so they have to log into the website and get the concert location. That way, we get a chance to pre-screen everybody, Tekk explained. He could actually see both girls lighting their hard, uncertain grills. It wasn't a bad idea. This is my last joint. I gotta take this last little risk, he said. Steph gave me a crib out in Colorado. I got some money coming in from the lawsuit. The time is right. Oh, yo, Daddy, did you get Candace pregnant? Gwen asked, grabbing her hip like a full-grown woman. Gwen, you gotta stay focused right now, baby. Tekk pulled no punches about ducking the question. Now listen, y'all gonna be getting some good money for everything, so keep it tight. I got the record company set up, so after this, I'm out. What you mean, out? Hollis asked. I mean, out. Tekk waved his hands to the sky and outwards. Out. 7 minutes later. Tekk had the look of a woman watching her lover cheat on her. Not taking the time to wax his face, he still had the outline of his goatee. He squeezed his muscles into themselves and looked. Gwen was smiling and flirting with a man she'd been talking to for the past 7 minutes. Yo, here. Tekk nearly shoved the flyer into the skateboarder's hands, walking past him. As Tekk moved to walk over, the boy stepped off. He took a deep breath of relief and got back to his work. Here, come see Architect November 14th. They worked for 3 hours, distributed nearly all 1,000 flyers, and they actually had a little fun doing so. Both of the girls refused the $20 he offered them for compensation, assuming that if circumstances were bad enough that he had to dress up like a woman, he probably needed the money more than they did. So he treated himself to a dinner at the steakhouse. 2 hours later, Tekk crept off to the back of the residence hall near one of the back rows that led to the School of Law. He smoked and smoked until he was on the verge of talking to himself and his mental planning. That's when he knelt to clip the blunt to the earth. He looked up to see the raccoon killer a few feet away and stalking his next victim. Hey, Tekk yelled, starting the camouflaged man's rifle from his grasp. Would you shut up? No, stop it, Tekk hollered. Would you shut up, you old butch bitch? The man yelled back. Tekk stomped directly to him, his dress flowing, his pink skirt stretched, and punched him right in the nose. The would-be killer felt like he'd been shot, grabbing his nose and rocking to and fro on his back as he hit the ground. After a moment, he began cursing Tekk out. He picked up a handful of dirt and threw it at him, which caused Tekk to laugh, and he just got the hell out of there. 4 minutes later, Tekk got to the 3rd floor of the girls' dorm, looking like a man dressed as a woman who had a fight after a very long day. He walked past the resident director's door. Hi, are you a student here? She asked as she followed him into the corridor. Yeah, I go to class. He waved his hand as if it were going to finish his sentence for him. On Mondays. She uttered, unconvinced. And Wednesdays and Fridays, Tekk added. Okay, sir, have a good night, she said before walking away cautiously. You too, he said, somewhere between masculine and feminine. 4 minutes later, Candace was looking Tekk in his eyes in a manner that she didn't have the confidence before conceiving. I'm going to move back home with my aunt, she informed him before popping the gum in her mouth. Her hair was a mess. Move back home with your aunt? Tekk asked. Yes, she confirmed plainly. That wasn't what we discussed, Candace. Tekk, I'm not going to have my child just floating in the wind with you, and I'm not going to college to become some farmer in the middle of nowhere in Colorado. Tekk fired back. Well, where the fuck was your aunt when your ass was out there stoned on crack? Candace kept cleaning her room, not feeling the need to answer. I don't know about this shit, Candace, for real. Well, there's nothing you could do about it, so. Candace, who the fuck you think you talking to? Through the window, Tekk could see a university police car pull up in front of the building. A switch in his head went off as he snatched his duffel bag and took off at once. And it came to pass that Tekk vigorously executed his marketing campaign for the Voices in My Head album. The release/concert date was building a buzz mainly because of Tekk's boldness in defying and eluding authorities, and due to the uniqueness of the project as a whole. It came to pass that Candace got $240,000 in her settlement after taxes, of which she only bothered to share $37,843.50 with Tekk. And it came to pass that Stephanie tied the eternity knot with Oleg, eloping in Manchester, England, and already planting the seed of their first addition to the family, of which a sonogram suggested a boy. And it came to pass that LaRonda, before all but disappearing from the public eye, made Hollis a wealthy woman with the support of her t-shirt collection. It came to pass that Gwen moved back in with her mother, and the word went forth. Junior, what do you want me to do? In his stomach, Tekk could feel the emotion which that question provoked. Such a deep sting that he was almost awakened. You should have fought for me. His young son seemed to yell the word straight to his face. You wanted me to fight your mother, Junior? Daddy, you should have fought for me. You should have fought for me. Tekk woke up drooling on the NYCMC record sweater that he was using as a pillow. He thanked God quickly for keeping him safe out there. He gripped up on his jacket for warmth. Then he reflected on his dream and asked God the meaning. He sat up on a bench, grateful that no one was around to see him. He pulled his clothes around his body until they were straight. He picked up his bag and moved on. 10:16 a.m. the next day. All right, brother, I've been keeping you in my prayers, and God is listening. So if you're truly looking for forgiveness, you just got to do your part. Tekk looked over at Trevor. You been praying 5 times a day? I've been praying like 1 or 2, son. So you're not doing what I told you to do? Tekk asked rhetorically. Okay, so what do you want me to do, Tekk? He asked as if annoyed. No, fuck that, nigga. What you trying to do? I thought you said you was trying to avoid hellfire, brother. And let me tell you, that's something to avoid. All right, Tekk, I'll start praying 5 times a day, son, Trevor said, half-hearted. I'm fucking broke, son. I don't have no job. I need something else to do besides pray, son. Tekk gave good thought before speaking his next words. He even stroked his goatee with thought. He swiftly removed his firearm wedged in his waistline and snuck it to Trevor. Here, take this, he said. I'm gonna need you to do some work at the door at the concert I'm having. I'll pay you. When's the concert? Trev asked, covering the weapon with his t-shirt. Next week, Tekk advised. But listen, the only thing is, there's no door. It's an outdoor concert. Now the people can come in for free, but I'm gonna have my daughters working on the front lines selling my CDs. The front lines? You make this sound like a military mission. Brother, I'm expecting a few thousand people out there. My daughters is gonna be collecting cash money, and we don't have the luxury of police. So if something goes wrong, Trev nodded his head, starting to see the bigger picture. So I need you to treat this shit like a military mission. Bet, Trev said with hard energy. That's what I'm talking about, son. Some gangster shit. 7:13 p.m. the same day. Tekk sat with his grandson on his left leg, stroking his wavy, black hair between his fingers. He likes hanging out with you, Hollis said, happy to see that they were bonding intimately. Yeah, that's my little dude, Tekk said, looking down at Karan, who was enjoying his bottled breast milk. He gonna be knocked out in a minute. Look at him, she said to her baby, whose lips were beginning to give up the quest for food to slumber. I love your hair like that, baby, Tekk said as he analyzed Hollis's velvet red dreads. They made her look like a queen, or which tales were told. Tekk felt so close to love, holding 2 generations of himself in peace and what seemed like quiet until, all right, this next young lady coming to the stage has been making quite a name for herself in a poetry circuit. The comedy club host came back to the stage wearing a leather coat with a mixed drink in his hand. She's out of Harlem, New York, and she's only 19 years old, he continued. Give a warm round of applause for Gwen's Sesame Jordan. Tekk's face was flushed with a bombshell of shock, hearing his daughter hyphenated her last name. His mouth was still open as he watched Gwen position herself in front of the microphone. She was sporting a sprawling, lime green Islamic hijab. Her round brown face seemed ablaze with beauty as she took the microphone. Salam, she greeted, already starting off ahead of her listeners who were mixed in their response. She went on anyway. God is the Father, the first, the lenient, the just. He is the last, Omega. He is the commonality that keeps all things together. He is beautiful, way beautiful. She smiled from inside out. He is the likeness of all good things, yet that won't even be suitable. He is unusual because he is the creator. He is the highest similitudes, yet infinitely greater. He is the reason the righteous can smile at the haters, knowing that you may win the battle today, but we will certainly win the war later. Through the corner of his eyes, Tekk could see Hollis's white teeth flash in satisfaction and anticipation. He could hear the random grunts in the crowd of those who had their wind took by some of her lines. This moment meaning more to him than any ceremony for any corny institution, meaning more to him than any certification she could get or any promotion to any rank in society. Gwen was now among the artists who allowed God to hide in her work. She had arrived. Overcome with emotion, Tekk missed nearly half of her recitation. He found a way to focus. God is the omnipresent, all around, the best of friends, always down. He is profound. He is the reason and the way I went from lost to found. Thank you. Peace. As a tear began to mount in one of Tekk's eyes, the place became live with applause. Hollis stood to her feet and he followed. He put Karan over his right shoulder, securing him into place with his strong arm, bringing his left hand over the clap. She's here, he said to himself. She's here. November 13th, 2012. Tekk could feel his old, yet new swagger with him. He walked around the Randall's Island track with his white kicks and gray sweats, clinging his microphone like a weapon. Try it now, Stump said as he plugged the mic up. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Can you hear me? Or do you feel me? Hollis over there with that Gucci bag, but is it really? Hollis laughed and flipped her father the bird before getting back to helping Stump set up the speaker system. On the mic, I could get silly, but could get busy. Show your brotherly love like I'm from Philly. Won't stop till I see a melee. Tekk's freestyle antics seemed to lighten everyone's workload. Trevor and Gwen came back over. All right, Gwen said. That's the only road coming in, she said, pointing to the one-way corridor behind them. So if we could block that one off, then we could at least get a running start if the police do roll up. All right, well, listen, G, I'm going to need you to go to Harlem. Go to Taft. Get as many niggas as you can. Tell them we'll pay them $500 at the end of the night to work security for me. All right? Tekk asked. Bet, she agreed. You can go with her, bro, he instructed Trevor. Watching them walk off, Tekk could see Stephanie's car pull up and park near Gwen's. She approached the center field with the man who Tekk took to be her husband. Tekk smiled and handed his microphone to Hollis. Give me a sec, babe, he said before walking over. Tekk, this is Olay, Stephanie introduced her husband. Peace, brother. How are you? Tekk asked, shaking his hand with good energy. I'm good, man. It's nice to meet you. I've been a fan for years, Olay informed him. Oh, really? Tekk smiled in all his charisma. Stephanie ain't tell me that. Yeah, man. Yo, The Dread was one of the sickest albums of all time. You got skills, man. Whatever I could do to help out around here, just let me know. All right, bet. Tekk shook his hand again. Where's the guy at? He asked, looking between him and Stephanie. He's in the car, Steph said. I didn't know if you wanted him to come over yet. No, come on. Let's do this damn thing, Tekk said. Stephanie waved a hand, then the tall, dark, muscular, dreadlock rocking brother got out of the car. Nice choice, Tekk said, noticing the striking resemblance. Yeah, we found him on Craigslist. Peace, brother, Tekk greeted as he came face to face with the man who looked just like him. Hello. Tekk could immediately tell that although they looked alike, the brother was from the other side of the tracks. So Tekk did away with the small talk. All right, brother, so this is real simple. Worst case scenario, police will arrive and arrest your ass. You're going to have to spend at least the night in jail. Tell them you were just impersonating me to try to get some extra cash. Shit, times is hard. Best case scenario, you go on stage and perform one of my songs, then I take it from there. Now, you're familiar with my work, right? No, I'm not, the man said in his deep, professionally refined tone. Damn, man, what you been under a rock? Tekk asked. The man gave him a look as if to say, nigga, please, you ain't even that important. All right, well, Stephanie emailed you the song, right? He nodded. Can you bring it up on your phone now? Tekk asked before the dude nodded again. All right, well, learn that joint before you leave. I need you to be able to recite every word. I'll give you half of the money when you do. You'll get the other half tomorrow. 9:14 p.m. the same day. Hollis told me to give this to you, Gwen said as she handed Tekk a gift wrap box. Tekk was truly anxious to see what was inside. He lowered his regular weed blunt and raised the sour diesel joint. She also said she has a surprise for you tomorrow, Gwen instructed. Oh, she got another surprise? I must have died and gone to heaven. They chuckled superficially as Tekk removed an elaborate black and gold robe from the box. Fit for a king, the robe had a gold microphone with the sun superimposed above it. He removed it. Just plain old thankful and grateful. He thanked God. Daddy, I got a confession to make, Gwen said, her eyes low and red already. What's up, baby? Tekk asked, feeling like he already knew the deal. In some unnecessary display of strength, Gwen pulled back her tears as best as she could. Daddy, I pushed this girl. Oh, that girl who didn't understand how to leave you alone and let you be? Tekk asked, as if he was well informed on the issue. Yeah, Gwen said softly, as if still not looking to incriminate herself. The Holy Quran instructs us that Allah and a prophet are closer to mankind than their own jugular. He looked at her for a moment after his words, then just as easily lowered his eyes to humility. Then, ever so unpredictably, he simply grabbed his bottle of water and sat back in his seat. He looked into Gwen's eyes to see what she was going to make of what he just said. Gwen played it cool, checking his eyes again, where she found nothing but the rigor of seriousness. So you know, she asked. Yeah, he admitted. But confession is good for the soul. I ain't going to judge you, though. Get right with Allah. Gwen continued sucking up her tears. Then she sucked up some more smoke. Tekk silently and distinctly pulled his attention away from whatever he was thinking about while looking on his left side to start a new set of issues on the right. He kept smoking as well. November 14th, 2012. The exceptional darkness of the night seemed to highlight the lights from the sirens ripping through it. Police blitzed the stage with sharp precision, wasted no time slapping the handcuffs on the diesel dread even before he could drop the microphone. The crowd protested, but the other officers present suppressed any uprising. The officers pulled out military style with their prisoner locked and loaded. They sped away from the small island resting between the South Bronx and East Harlem, feeling as if they had won. Tekk sat by his very lonesome in the back of a black Jeep Wrangler on the opposite side of the 400-meter track in front of the open public stadium. The interior of the ride was lit with smoke as he took one last lingering, savory pull before ousting his blunt. It's all clear. We got 2 hours. Bet, Tekk said in his phone. Go ahead and form the perimeter, he instructed Trevor. Then he put his phone away. Tekk brushed his ash from his t-shirt, then reached beside him and grabbed his robe. All right, Allah, stay with me, Pops. Show me how to do this, he said into the rearview mirror, but speaking to God. The 50 brothers and sisters he hired from his old projects to work as security lined up along the north side of the track. They faced shoulder to shoulder, everyone in black, each carrying 2 boxes of CDs. A human wall was formed between the performing area and the people. Good evening, good evening. Gwen could be heard addressing the impatient crowd over the PA system. Taking a new signature, public look to a new level for the evening, she wore a full black veil over her face and body. You gonna get what you paid for. When we're done with this, you gonna wish you gave even more. She had a red and black shamag that her father gave her, draped around her body in a hip-hop sort of way. We come hard in the name of Almighty God, who knows who you are, who got us this far, who made us some stars. As planned, Gwen successfully recaptured the attention of the audience with the words. Tekk left the Jeep like a pumped-up prize fighter would leave his corner. He stretched his neck from side to side. He shook out his shoulders and took a deep, relieving breath to cope with the magnitude of it all. His microphone was clutched strongly in his right hand. He savored every step. The righteous cadet with lyrics on deck, put your hands together for the one and only architect. Tekk stepped up behind her and screamed into the microphone. What's up, New York? What the fuck is the deal? The crowd hollered back. He dived right into his most commercially successful hit, something that the people could sing along to. From assurance of hell or heaven, I praise God relentlessly, use the microphone like a weapon, no half-stepping, I'm chin-checking. Those in my inner circle second-guessing, but still I ain't stressing. Allah's my brethren, so what's next in the book of life? Just write your section, be glad to get your blessings. After performing his first set of 5 of his most popular songs, it was time for Stump, the DJ, to hold a crowd, which he did with a most unusual music selection. When it feels like the world is on your shoulders and all of the madness has got you going crazy, it's time to get out, step out into the street where all of the action is right there at your feet. What the hell is this nigga playing? Trevor asked while trying to read the numbers on the dice that one of the guys rolled out. Nah, I could kind of dig that, Tekk said as he grabbed his foam-posite sneakers by the tongue and tried to line his foot properly. An elaborate arrangement of 7-foot canvas dividers separated the performance area from the preparation area, what would be backstage of a normal venue. Dancing to the morning light, forget about the worries in your life, you can leave them all behind. What is that song? Rhythm of the Night? Reggie, Karan's father, asked as he tossed the dice in his hand. Oh, head crack, he yelled as one of the dice he tossed finally settled to a 6, complimenting the other 4 and 5. He collected the pot from amongst the fellas. Oh shit, Tekk said, peeping from behind one of the dividers. Look, they having a limbo contest. He smiled, wanting some of the action. Here, take this, he said to Trevor, giving him his drink. He ripped the new shirt over his head and went back out there. He strolled on stage in all his New Yorkness, hard muscles, pulling his baggy jeans up. He made sure to show a hint of his YSL belt buckle. His hair looked resilient. He tightened up the grip on his microphone as to be a stronger man. He let his muscles pump along his wrists and forearms. Allahu Akbar, he testified into the microphone for no other reason than because it was in his heart. Allahu Akbar, a voice proclaimed from the back of the crowd. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Tekk continued, growling in the Holy Spirit. More dark fists pumped in the name of God. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. These motherfuckers gonna get me into heaven, Tekk thought to himself before going back to his lyrics. 3 minutes later. And everything I do with mad strength. I ad-lib, you niggas in the past tense, I'm past this, past average. This classic shit just past the spliff. Delivered on time, I swear it's Christmas. This pitch never miss when God is the content. With who's throwing it, eyes low as a bitch. I'm hella bent, trick, and that's it. Stump cut the beat while Tekk caught his breath. Dripping with sweat, Tekk could hear the people's cheers pick up after having died down. They groaned nearly ecstatic. He looked over his shoulders and saw his ex-wife, LaRonda, in front of the DJ booth. The crowd went bananas. Tekk looked over at Hollis, who gave him a wink he'd always remember. Stump dropped the beat, and Tekk and Lioness did what they do from there. Is it me or is the cops looking more like criminals? Pay attention, y'all. Not all of the signs are subliminal. They killing you softly, cuffs, cages, and ridicule. They got mad tats and their diesel, ski masks, and machine guns too. in all the drug spots, unregistered, unmarked Glocks. When in doubt, they always shot, regardless of who was dropped. Ask me, I say the game is dirtier than it's ever been. We never win, despite the isolated, randomized wealth of certain men. Take a look across the planet, Aki. Police only there to serve and protect the elite. We speak accordingly, cause we always been about it. We threw our guns in the air and moved nickels by the thousands. The most loyal among the thieves is who we be. The salt of the earth, God's messengers were like his seeds. Lioness raised her microphone on cue. Even his firstborn, Tekk, came back in. I leave the earth torn like hell's fury from a woman's scorn. LaRonda came back in. This year we're on, Tekk, and you're powerless like a baby just born. 12:50 p.m. the same night. It had begun to drizzle a few minutes back. Lioness had the stage to herself after her, Tekk, and Buck performed the track from the Best of NYC MC album. There was a serene silence floating about. The black of the night seemed to serve as a prop for this performance. I can always feel you. Babe, I keep you in the things I do. I reminisce on our love that grew, and I find myself thankful. Yes, I do. Lioness continued to blow as the water from the sky fell over her. Tekk took a seat next to Stump, enjoying the show like a fan. He kicked his feet out and bobbed his head as he sang along at his leisure. Some curiosity in him caused him to reach up and examine his throat. The lump was gone, and the word went forth. 3:37 a.m. the same night. Yo, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank all y'all for coming out this evening. Your support is a true comfort to my heart. We love you, Tekk. I love you too, baby. He smiled, having waited his whole life for that. Honestly, yo, this is probably going to be the last time I see most of y'all. So it's been real. This last joint I'm about to close out with is called My Letter to Jesus. Something off my new album. I hope y'all enjoy. Now wearing a black Pele leather over a deep purple champion sweater, Tekk had a leather fitted sitting low, blocking the windows of his soul. We're all brothers in the God's name. Some got wealth, some got fame. Some are slandered and slain. Some give praise in your name, nothing to the Father. Some try to throw their sins on you and scared to try harder. 4:50 a.m. the same morning. At the Burlington Hotel, Tekk managed to get one of the same rooms he had in the past. Jill Scott was the dress choice this a.m. LaRonda was sipping on Merlot with her feet kicked up on a footrest, singing along. Tekk left the bathroom after a private smoke and sat on the bed. He hunched over, looking at LaRonda as if reading her. She leaned into him and pushed his hair away from his face and kissed him. Tekk already convinced himself that she didn't love him, so he didn't feel the need to say anything. He wanted some pussy. He wanted her pussy. He walked up to her and pulled the strap of her dress down her shoulders. With your beautiful ass, he said deeply before kissing her softly on the shoulder of her brown skin. She looked up at him, giving it to him. He pulled her into him. I miss you so much, LaRonda said between exchanges of wet lips, the heat of which could only be produced by a long wait. She protruded her chest as if to say, take it. And he did, grazing her ever tenderly across the flesh of her breast. Her erect nipples were the focus of his next minute. Then her upper chest and neck. She grabbed and pulled his hair. Tekk lifted her and placed her on the bed. He grabbed the panties and ripped them off. She scooted back, pulling at his belt buckle as he wrestled his shirt off. Their mutual hunger was obvious, and their appetite was sufficiently satisfied. Afterwards, they fell into a deep, coma-like sleep just as the sun of the morning was rising. 3 hours later. Cut it off, LaRonda said. Tekk lifted his semi-conscious face from the cozy pillow and looked at her with one eye shut. What? Cut that off, she said as she rolled over into a fetal position. Moments later, the buzzing from her alarm continued disturbing the peace. She turned back over. Jason! What? He yelled. Cut my cell phone off. It was times like this in his youth that God made it clear to Tekk that he was sleeping his life away over the pleasures of yesterday. Feeling as such, he pulled his eyes open to the ambivalent welcoming and refusal of the sun's light. Come on, get up, he said to LaRonda after he cut off her preset phone alarm. What? She asked with her back to him. We gotta make Salah, Tekk said as he ripped the covers off his ready and able body. LaRonda became miserable with the numerous times her sleep was disturbed. Come on, Jason, not right now, she pleaded. Tekk took a step from the bed and his foot collided with one of the duffel bags saturated with the cash generated from last night. He smiled like a happy child, knowing of a certainty that it was time to thank God. Yo, he called to LaRonda as he tried to find his underwear. If you ain't gonna make your prayers, then you gonna have to get out of here, son, he said to the half-asleep beauty. She rolled over and looked at him as if he'd lost his mind. Tekk, are you serious? His face gave nothing, finding himself blessed to be standing in front of enough cash to attain today what was going to take Lioness decades to touch. Freedom. She bounced from the marriage thinking her wealth would avail her. Now, without saying so much as a word, Tekk was telling her that she was on her own. He had his home, his money, his children. He owned all of the rights to his music, and the arrogant blank stare he was giving her as she gathered her things in disgust told the tale. He powered up the stereo, suddenly feeling good, suddenly wanting to feel hip-hop. The sound of Kanye West's Otis filled the room. You're selfish, LaRonda roared like a lioness, fuming. Tekk felt the need to sing. Hold up, before we end this campaign, as you see we'd embodied the damn lanes. I hope something real fucked up happens to one of your daughters, she said scornfully, raging like a woman could, showing the fury of hell. Tekk just kept singing at her ass, feeling no need to spar verbally. Lord, please let them accept the things they can't change and play that all of their pain be champagne. He lowered the radio after LaRonda walked out, laughing to himself and picking up his cell phone to call Stephanie. Tekk, what's up? Chillin'. What's good with you? Where y'all at? We're headed back to the airport now, Stephanie said. Tekk activated the speaker on the phone and flopped to the plush, king-size mattress, unzipping the first of the 3 cash bags. That show was the bomb, Tekk. Straight hot. I really enjoyed myself, she added. Yeah, me too, he said. I never had so much fun performing. I want to thank you and Olay for coming out. No problem, it was a pleasure. Her words moved something in Tekk's tough heart. I'm going to take real good care of your crib. And I got the taxes and insurance, he said earnestly. I know it's in good hands, she said, assured. Tekk could almost feel her warm nurse-like smile on the other end of the phone. So you're done. Hip-hop isn't going to be the death of you, she said. While deciding the appropriate response, she spoke again. And speaking of death, Tekk, Derek called me. He got fired from his job from behind what happened at the airport. He left me a few voicemails telling me and Margot to watch our backs. He thinks you guys set him up. Whatever, Tekk responded, the least concerned, counting out the cash like he'd hit the lotto. You go enjoy your peaceful, wonderful life in Manchester, and I'm going to enjoy my peaceful, wonderful life in Boulder. All right? Peace. November 21st, 2012. When Jason arrived at his new home, he slept for nearly 3 days straight. No checking emails, no phone calls, no TV. He made his prayers in the short time that he spent conscious, ate a little something, then slept some more. Upon waking up from a 5-hour nap on the 4th day, he decided that he got enough rest. After taking care of his daughters, the Dread walked away from the game with just under 100 grand, cold hard cash. He devised numerous budgets for numerous projects. The first and foremost was the project taking place outside the master bedroom. He was having a 2-acre place of worship built adjacent to a barn out back. Trevor was managing the project, but from the looks of things, he got little done since he last checked. He put on his robe and went downstairs. So yo, Tekk, you said you want us to bury a Quran and a Bible right here, right? Trevor asked, pointing to the stick of wood staked at the head of the plot. No, he said right here, Reggie said, obviously agitated. He wanted the basins installed right there. Damn, y'all ain't get that shit done yet? Tekk asked as he trekked through the mud. Nah, I wasn't sure if you wanted me to get dirt on your Quran, bro. I know how you are about your book. This mosque is slated to be manifestly built on God's word, brother. Tekk took the holy books from Trevor and put them to rest atop a stack of 4x4 slabs of wood. He removed the shovel staked in the ground in front of him and began digging. We're going to call this Masjid Saifullah. Saifullah, huh? Reggie asked. What does that mean? The sword of Allah. Tekk looked directly into Reggie to see what he thought of the name. He gathered his information, then turned back to Trevor. Brother, I got this little mission I need you to help me with. Trevor listened carefully, stepping off with the Dread. The people around Tekk had come to know that when he started throwing the word mission around, somebody was going to get paid or dead. Either way, it was to their advantage to be in the known. There's some big money involved in it for you. Maybe even enough to get your own place like this, Tekk said. With the coat of sugar set, Trevor was pretty much down for anything. I bet, he said enthusiastically. All right, I'm going to need you to pretend to be me when we go to New York on Friday, Tekk advised him. All right, Trevor agreed. That's it? Pretty much, Tekk said, making it all seem so simple. Just make sure you wear that dread wig I gave you. Make sure it's on real tight. Oh, and I'm going to be dressed like a woman, but don't concern yourself with that. Trevor's face crunched with questions. So, brother, Tekk moved on, and all his command of conversation and words, you still ain't start making those prayers yet, huh? Nah, man, Trev said unapologetically. He'd been failing in so many of the tasks that he'd been given that he didn't feel the need to explain himself anymore. He was just riding along, eating, sleeping, shitting for free. Tekk looked at him with a slight smirk. You know your period of respite ain't forever, right? What you mean by that? Allah's gonna call you to account for your sins, especially the elephant in the room sin. And he may do it while you're walking around playing, thinking shit is all good, Tekk warned. I feel you, Trevor said, unmoved. Tekk shook his head. All right, he said as he ripped his shovel back into the earth. All right. 6 minutes later. Gwen's gray sedan was pulling up into the driveway. Tekk took a break accordingly. He could see Candace through the windshield. He speculated on her potential mind state. What's up, Daddy? Gwen asked, getting out of the car first. What's up? Everything all right? She shook her head in frustration and waved her numerous complaints off with her hands. She headed straight for the front door, only seeking to get to the privacy of her room. Hi, Tekk. Thanks for inviting me out, Candace said loudly as she got out of the car. I didn't get an invite to your little concert on Randall's Island. I guess that was because all your other girlfriends was there. Tekk chuckled and looked at Trevor as if he was slightly embarrassed. Candace grabbed her own bags and dragged them over animatedly. What y'all doing? Building a mosque, Reggie felt obligated to answer in place of the other men's silence. She hemmed, dragging along. I hope you don't think my child is going to be in there. 2:01 p.m., the same day. Tekk sat at his work desk employing his best penmanship. And although I know nothing can replace the loss of a child, I hope that you will be able to rest better knowing that this animal is off the streets. A knock at the door called for his attention. "Come in," he said. Gwen walked in. "What's up, Daddy? You wanted to talk to me?" "Yeah, listen. Me, you, Candace, and Trevor is driving back to New York on Wednesday." "Okay. When we get there, you're going to drop Candace off at her school first," Tekk said. "You and Trev are going to wait for me in one of the park lots near the dorm. When I come back, I'm going to come back dressed up like, you know. You ain't going to be dressed up like no bitch again, Daddy, are you?" Gwen asked boldly. "Yes, baby," Tekk admitted, "but it's a means to an end. It's a means to an end," he double assured her. "And this is the last time I'm going to have to do this." "All right, I hope so," she said reluctantly. "Now," Tekk moved right along, "you and me dressed as the bitch, and Trevor is going to go for a ride. When me and Trevor get out the car, I want you to pull out your cell phone and record us," he instructed. "I'm just going to record you and Trevor after y'all get out the car?" "Right." "Okay," she said. "You heard back from those people about that show yet?" he asked before she could dig any deeper into his head. "Yeah, I'm booked. They paying me $500 too." "Bet," he said, holding a fist out and across his desk to embrace her. "Well, let me get back to this," he said, looking down at the letter he was writing. "Oh, also, can you look up this person on Facebook?" He wrote a name on a poster and handed it to her. "She was killed about 2 months ago by her boyfriend. Nigga hit her over the head with a frying pan. See if you can find any of her relatives and give me an address or something. Tell them you have some important information to get to them." 1 hour later. There was a special shade for the architect this day, and the breeze was without flaw. It was over 80 degrees outside, but he couldn't tell, being so cool. He kicked his legs out, sat back, letting the ropes of his head fall over the bench behind him. He tried to look straight up to the sky, but the light restricted him. He brought his head back and looked straight ahead, where he saw Candace soaring through the air on a swing suspended from a sturdy tree branch. Baby Karan was sitting in his walker, laughing hysterically every time Candace flew by. Tekk smiled, then looked to his left, where Gwen was talking to Hollis under a pear tree. Tekk knew he couldn't stay here. The same principles that he stood on to establish him here were the same that would now move him along in the land. He was a warrior, and he still had fight in him, and so the earth was calling him. He could hear her, and he knew he needed to get closer. 4:04 a.m. the next morning. And it came to pass that Tekk dwelled in the land to the north of Boulder, west of Longmont. At once, the dread decided that the time had come to stop smoking marijuana. He shook his head as if to clear his eyes and mind. "Pac?" he asked the man standing in front of him. "What's up?" the man asked in an all too familiar voice. "I've been waiting for you." Tekk squinted and turned his head aside as if he would better understand from that perspective. "Nigga, are you Tupac?" "Well, they call me Machiavelli around these parts, if you know what I mean, bro." Tekk laughed, exhausted in his mind, thinking he'd done seen it all, as he shook his head. The man spoke again. "If you concern yourself with a man's name, you're gonna miss the man's message, homeboy. Walk with me," he said, stepping off. He was buff. He looked like he'd been bench pressing trucks. His bald head glowed golden brown. He strutted through the thick of the woods as if he had not a care in the world. "God is pleased with the work you've done," he informed Tekk. His words shook Tekk to his very soul. It wasn't until then that he perceived a sort of fear of him. "And you know God?" Tekk asked. the man came to an abrupt halt. "Just keep writing what you see," he advised in what was unmistakably Tupac Shakur's voice. "All right now, give me a sec. I gotta take a leak," he said as he stepped to the side of the trail that they were walking along. Tekk swatted a mosquito from his face and killed another that had taken his last meal on his wrist. Looking back, he noticed that the man was completely gone. He looked around the greenery to no avail. There was no one there. 12 p.m. the same day. As he sat reading in the basement, Tekk could hear the commotion above his head. Gwen was pissed off about something. He could hear her stomping down the stairs and heading his way. "What happened?" he asked as she busted past the "please knock" sign on his door in the den. "This chick is crazy, yo," Gwen all but hollered. "She act like 'cause she pregnant, somebody's supposed to kiss her ass." Tekk got up. It was obvious that his presence was needed to maintain the peace in the home. "I'm trying to tell this bitch that she need to clean up the nursery so the guys can paint and put the damn curtains up. She want to sit up there and start building a crib. That's just one more thing that's going to be in the way now," Gwen said, all frustrated. Upstairs in the home, there were too many people and personalities dwelling without direction, so the dread got up. "Come on," he said to his ear. As he strutted his visibly heavier body through the corridors like a king ready to execute his will, Hollis couldn't get Karan to stop his irritated shouting and crying. Trevor was arguing with Reggie and Kurt about who was going to win the Super Bowl. Candace was on her phone complaining about whatever she could to whoever she could. Tekk stood in the middle of the living room, looked around, and took a deep, absorbing breath. Candace came halfway down the stairs. "Tekk, are you going to come with me to get the stroller from the baby or what?" she asked. "Yo, Tekk, Trevor called. "Daddy, come here when you get a chance," Hollis yelled from the bedroom. Tekk took a seat right where he was previously standing. He folded his legs. His face was pulled by stress. He called out in his loudest voice, "Bismillahirrahmanirrahim." The chatting around him simmered down, all eyes finding their way to the dread as he began to recite in Arabic. "Qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas, malakin nas, ilahin nas, mil sharril waswazwil khannas, alladhi yaswasu fi zururin nas, miyal jin najiwan nas." 4 hours later. "Candace, the last thing that I'm about to have happen in the fucking world is have another kid that I don't get to watch grow up. No, that's just not gonna fucking happen." Candace rolled her eyes and her arms over themselves. "Well, I don't know what to tell you." He looked at her as if to say, "Oh, really?" Not saying anything, only for the sake of not being heard threatening her. Whatever was going to become of this was going to be real. "So you could take this and do what you got to do, but I got to go study," she said, moving to leave the den. "Listen, you're pregnant and your hormones are going a little crazy right now, so because I know that, I'm going to let you slide on some shit. But you pushing it, yo," Tekk said. "Whatever, nigga. You're just fucking lazy and you don't know what to do with yourself," she said as she stormed out. Wednesday, December 6, 2012. Tekk had on a padded bra beneath his white sweater. He had padded briefs beneath his denim dress. He touched his lips up with fire red lipstick, and he had black gloves covering his hands that were working the steering wheel. They were on the Neck Bridge. The music was unusually and purposefully loud as a part of his plan. Suddenly, he pushed on the brakes and wiggled the wheel to and fro. "Oh, man," he said. "I think we blew out a tire." He pulled over to the shoulder. He pulled his dress up along his legs so he can get out of the car. "Trev, help me with this tire?" he asked. "I don't think you blew out a tire, bro," Trev said, looking like a mirror image of Tekk's normal self with his dreadlock wig. "Come on, help me, man." As soon as Tekk stepped out of the car, he gripped up on his pistol and his yellow purse. He walked around the other side of the car. He checked inside to make sure Gwen was recording. "Look down there, what's that?" he asked before Trevor bent down to the side of the car. Tekk shot right through the purse, straight to the head, killing Trevor at once. It looked rather silly. The woman in white lifting the big black man she just shot off the ground and tossing his 200-pound body over the side of the bridge. But that's what Tekk did. He just walked away with his big shoulders, ripped purse, and blood-splattered sweater. "Find me a mailbox," he said to Gwen as he got back in the car. "Find you a fucking mailbox, Daddy." "You recorded it?" he asked, looking at her with no jokes in his eyes. "Daddy, yes, I recorded it," Gwen said. "All right, send me the video to that number I gave you." 1 hour later. We're back on Hot 97.9. We regret to announce that rapper Jason Architect Jordan was gunned down today on the Neck Bridge. Someone caught it all on camera and sent it to the station. It's one of the most horrific videos you'll ever see. Just terrible. Tekk was one of the most controversial New York rappers, best known for his gold-selling album, The Dread. This is definitely a tragedy, and we here at Hot 97.9 would like to send our condolences to his daughters. Just sad, sad thing. And Tekk lost his son, J3, a few years ago. He found him gunned down in the elevator in Taft Projects in Harlem. Just sad. Please stop the violence, y'all. It's just so not worth it. There are other ways to resolve things. We're going to pay some bills, then come back and play some Architect joints over the next hour in his memory. Tekk smiled as he turned down the radio. He looked over at Gwen, whose look of shock and confusion had just been settled. She could only shake her head. "All right, baby, I'm out," Tekk said, still dressed as Rebecca. "Yeah," Gwen said, simply not wanting to deal with him right now. Tekk walked in his old building lobby, the building where his great-grandmother lived, his grandmother and mother lived, the building where his son was killed. The anxiety of seconds turned to minutes, and those minutes turned to hours. He stood on the left side window, then the right. He sat on the milk crate. He stood by the mailboxes. He knew who he was looking for, so he had no need to say anything to anyone who came in or out. This hood was like a revolving door, yet the natives never stayed away too long. After waiting and waiting, around 5:21 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, JoJo, his son's murderer, walked in the building. He pressed the elevator while Tekk thanked God that they were alone. A rarity around here. The elevator came and JoJo got in. Tekk let the door swing halfway shut before he caught it and climbed in. Tekk stood behind JoJo, not bothering to press a floor, which JoJo must have found strange because he peeped at Tekk as Rebecca. Without moving, Tekk sort of grew. He grew to the point of hulking. He gave a deliberate passage of air through his throat as if to clear it, as if to let JoJo know he wasn't no bitch. Tekk's face turned deadly sour, screwed up completely. He decided to go for his knife instead of his gun. JoJo turned around and Tekk stabbed him square in the stomach. JoJo rushed him, showing some fight, but Tekk's power wasn't to be conquered on this day. He planted his feet strongly and pushed away like a bull, driving JoJo as far back as he could. The force of the two men slamming caused the elevator to get stuck. Tekk pulled back, leaving his machete in JoJo. He pulled out his primary weapon and shot twice, hitting his target in the chest and shoulder. JoJo fell back, trying with his bloody hands to hold his life in his body. There was no mistaking in his face. He was taking the last of his breaths. He gasped deeply, deeper, as Tekk took his knife back. You, JoJo tried desperately to say anything. Shut the fuck up, motherfucker. They gonna find you a bloody mess when they do find you, Tekk told him like it was. Now, how you did my son? He asked, pulling him by the neck and pushing his face to the floor. You shot him in the head twice, right? Tekk placed his Beretta to the side of JoJo's head. He stood up before pulling the trigger, as to avoid getting any blood splattered on him. That's when he realized the advantage of the stuck elevator situation. He watched JoJo bleeding and struggling to breathe while trying to figure out a way to make his last living moments sheer hell. A bloody mess, Tekk felt the need to still employ the back of his hand to brush off his clothes. He flipped JoJo's corpse around to his back. He took out the gun that he shoved between his skirt and drawers. He kneeled down over the boy, mounting him yet again. He straightened JoJo's head to a neutral position, then stuck the barrel in his mouth. Noticing that he wasn't aligned for what he desired, Tekk propped his head up to an inclined position, holding it in place by clamping the nose. Putting the gun to the back of JoJo's mouth, Tekk looked up and still didn't like the positioning. Still holding JoJo's dome by the nose, Tekk lowered himself just a tad more. He squeezed the trigger and shot the back of JoJo's head off. Tekk squeezed his face to the disgust of the gruesomeness before him. The body almost didn't look real anymore. Tekk thought of any other sick way to defile the memory of the sucker. He chuckled at what he was thinking before saying fuck it and doing it. He ripped the True Religion jeans off the body and once again picked up the knife. He looked around the elevator and spotted a brown paper bag with an empty bottle of beer in it. He took the bag and used it to cover his hand as he lifted JoJo's penis via the tip. He stretched it out to its extent and severed it from his base. With the dick in one hand, he pulled JoJo's head up from his bloody nose again and tried to shove the penis in the hole in the back of his skull. The dick slipped out of Tekk's grasp and to the floor. He tried to grab it through the bag again, only to have it slip from him again. Aight, Allah, no homo, Tekk said as he used the tip of his fingers to grab the penis and stuff it in the hole. Ew, he said as he flicked JoJo's life juices back on him, even wiping his hands off on the dead man's jeans. All right, motherfucker, Tekk said, bidding his victim farewell. He looked around, feeling satisfied. Then he looked up and examined the lock on the emergency escape door before shooting it off. He peeled off his coat and dropped it before raising himself by way of a pull-up. After wiggling his way through the door, he's standing on top of the elevator car. He could see the 9th floor door only a few feet away. He took one more look down into the hideous scene he created and accentuated it by spitting on the carcass. The dread pushed and pulled his way out of the elevator shaft. He stood erect and kept it moving as if he'd just taken a normal elevator ride. He pulled out a cell phone. What's up? You ready to get the crib ready for the baby? All right, so meet me at the 6th train on 116th Street, 'cause Gwen got the car. All right? Bet. Not concerned with who could identify him or the police, not concerned with anything, Tekk walked slowly down the stretch of the 1,000-mile journey. This was Tekk's favorite time of the year. The transformational days of the fall were behind him. It was winter. As he hustled down 116th Street subway station stairs, he could see Candace who was standing on the platform with her back turned to him. "What's up, sister? You need to get a ride?" "Yeah, you got me?" Tekk asked before giving a jean jacket sporting brother $2 to swipe him through the turnstile, as opposed to the $2.25 he would pay otherwise. The train was coming, ripping up the tunnel from 125th Street. The approaching Iron Horse caused the New York City strap hangers to appear from their mutual hiding places on the platform. "There's a Brooklyn-bound 6 train approaching the station." Candace turned to check for Tekk and didn't see him. Tekk came upon her quickly. She turned around again as if she finally got it. She finally figured it out. But it was too late. The man dressed as a woman pushed her off the platform. Before she fell to her death, Tekk could be heard hollering, "Don't ever try to play me, bitch." This book is dedicated to Layla Ruth Williams and Nyla Crystal Smith.